Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the absolute worst podcast on all of YouTube.
I'm in tremendous pain! Help me!
You are watching Lolcow Live!
Jesus Christ.
A part of me does hate the poor. Part of me does hate the poor.
A man much smarter than me once said, "The internet never forgets, and more importantly, it rarely forgives." For over 2 decades, online culture has evolved from forums and message boards into a digital colosseum, a place where people don't gather to build, but to watch things fall apart. You could call it toxic or even destructive, but there's no denying that it's incredibly popular. And in that strange space, somewhere between reality television and performance art, exists a podcast like no other. A show hosted not by journalists or comedians, but by the very people the internet has spent years mocking. It's called Lolcow Live, and at first glance, it's a similar setup. A few guys getting together to talk about current events, internet beef, and occasionally each other. But beneath the surface, something far stranger is going on. What you have to understand is that this isn't just a podcast, it's a content built entirely on reputation damage. As you probably already know, the term lolcow is internet slang for someone who becomes a source of entertainment by repeatedly making a fool of themselves online. Think of it like a cow that can be endlessly milked for laughs. That's what Lolcow Live is. Each of the main hosts has, at one point or another, been the punchline. And at the end of the day, that is the main appeal. Presiding over it all is Keemstar, the architect of the chaos, a man whose entire career has been built on internet controversy. From drama alert to Twitter feuds to monetizing the rise and fall of countless online figures. If the internet is a stage, Keemstar is the guy selling tickets at the door and laughing as the curtains burn down behind him.
It was at 1,000 before we.
Well, now you're giving me false information! Now you're just giving me false information. Now you're making
I'm not giving you false
fucking
information. I can show you.
So, what does this show really offer? In essence, it's a feedback loop. A space where the hosts confront their past, perform their dysfunctions, and often unravel in real time. In that sense, Lolcow Live is a mirror. It reflects the hosts, but it also reflects us. Our appetite for conflict, our fascination with trainwrecks, our willingness to turn real people into digital clowns. It is my intention to take a closer look at how this disaster came to be, who built it, who fuels it, and what it reveals about the way we consume online content. The line between entertainment and exploitation has never been thinner, and on Lolcow Live, that line isn't just crossed, it is monetized. By now, it's safe to say that Keemstar is a name that almost everyone watching this video is already familiar with. Somehow, no matter what corner of the online world you find yourself in, his name always seems to surface. Covering this man's history would take far more time than a single video segment allows. His career spans for almost 2 decades and is filled with enough controversy, comebacks, and chaotic moments to fill an entire documentary series. But even if we can't cover everything, it's worth noting his most well-known and enduring achievement: Drama Alert.
I don't understand why I'm still getting hate. I have debunked all this fucking bullshit, slanderous claims that have been made about me.
First appearing as a hashtag on Twitter in 2012 and officially launching as a YouTube series in 2014, Drama Alert was one of the internet's most influential and controversial news-style commentary shows. It reported on everything from petty internet feuds and breakups to large-scale cancellations, legal threats, and sometimes even serious criminal accusations involving online creators.
the streamer, big time in real life streamer here on YouTube, Ice Poseidon, was raided by the police for 5 hours. Actually, did I say police? No, it was the FBI!
What made Drama Alert stand out wasn't just the content, it was the tone. Fast-paced, emotionally charged and often sensationalized, the show turned influencer gossip into spectacle journalism with Keemstar at the center of it all. During his time as host, he rose to massive popularity. His ability to break stories quickly and his unfiltered style attracted a large following. But with that success came just as much backlash. Over the years, he became one of the most hated people on the YouTube platform, frequently criticized for spreading misinformation, distorting facts for views, and turning personal misfortunes into public entertainment. Not to mention his high-profile feuds with other creators including Ethan Klein, Pokimane, iDubbbz and many others. These clashes weren't just side notes to his story, they often became part of the content itself, fueling viewership and solidifying his role as both commentator and participant in the dramas he reported on. In many ways, Drama Alert didn't just cover drama, it became drama, and that reflects perfectly on Keemstar's personality, which can best be described as provocative, confrontational, and unapologetically performative. He doesn't shy away from controversy, in fact, he seems to thrive in it. In 2021, he announced his retirement from Drama Alert, stating he was stepping away from the show that had defined much of his online persona. However, true to form, he returned sometime later. By 2022, Drama Alert became widely disliked by many people who were still watching. It had, in some sense, lost its relevance and fallen out of favor with the broader public. And yet, despite its declining reputation, the show continued to pull in a respectable number of views. The series would eventually retire from YouTube and continue exclusively on Snapchat. One important detail to mention, and something that will soon become very relevant, is that Keemstar has been involved in several podcasts throughout his online journey. His very first was Bad Kid Cast, which he co-hosted with his fellow content creator Only Use Me Blade. In short, it was something of a very early, unpolished version of the commentary style show. The two discussed a range of internet topics in a much more casual and spontaneous format. At first, the podcast had potential. Blade even moved to Buffalo, New York, specifically to collaborate with Keem and work on content together more consistently. For a time, they produced episodes regularly and built a small but loyal following. Unfortunately, the show faded away and was quietly discontinued. There were a few reasons for this, but one of the main issues was that Blade returned home, making it harder to maintain the chemistry they had while working in person. They did attempt to continue the podcast remotely, but it just didn't have the same energy. More importantly, Blade started consuming alarming amounts of alcohol and drugs, which didn't really make him a reliable partner in creating any kind of content.
Powered by Twitch. Shots, everybody. All right. Woo, here we go.
It got old, bro. It got so old.
As a result, the podcast ultimately fell apart. After that, Keemstar was involved with another series called Triggered. Apparently, it was a show featuring 5 YouTube commentators, one of whom was Keem, discussing various topics like gaming, YouTube, politics, and more. To be honest, I don't know anything about it and never listened to a single episode, but I'm guessing it didn't really live up to much and eventually ended after around 50 episodes. While Bad Kid Cast and Triggered may seem like a footnote in Keemstar's career, it was actually just the beginning of his exploration into live commentary, a format he would later refine with much greater success in the next podcast called Baited.
Well, you kind of are. I mean, you were telling me once that you had a map, a treasure map, to some nutty gold buried somewhere in the fucking Antarctic, and you're gonna go out there one day with a metal detector.
Yes, I do, because I know where the fucking Nazi gold is. I know where it is.
I rest my case. That is
know
fucking
where it is,
insane.
Baited was, without a doubt, one of the most entertaining podcasts to emerge from the YouTube drama scene, largely due to the constant fights between its hosts. At the center of it all was the already mentioned Keemstar. Alongside him was Colossally Crazy, often referred to as Clown, a well-known commentary YouTuber who had previously clashed with Keem. Due to these unresolved issues and their wildly different personalities, the show's tense atmosphere became its defining trait. The third host, Tommy C, served as a more grounded middleman. While his co-hosts were often locked in heated arguments, Tommy acted as a comic relief while reacting to their clashes. The basic premise of nearly every episode was the same. Keemstar would say something controversial or completely unhinged, which would almost always escalate into an argument, especially if Clown disagreed, which he often did.
And by the way, Clown, I saw you on some fucking podcast and you were like, oh, Keem's doing a horrible thing keeping that dog alive. My dog is fine.
Your
My dog is,
walking around
I'm
in
actually
circles.
not. He's walking around right now. I can see him.
He's blind, deaf, practically brain dead. I mean, he's walking around in circles. He's rotting.
No, he's
I think
not.
it is a
No,
little
he's
bit
not.
cruel
Dude,
to keep
you're
him alive
just-
at this
no,
point.
it's
I'm
not
sorry,
cruel. It is
but
not
it is.
cruel.
Keemstar also had a habit of getting frustrated when someone interrupted him, despite constantly interrupting others himself.
I have seen.
Can I just clarify?
calling
With
out-
the Spider-Man Elsa shit, it's actually
You
got
know,
very
I'm
little.
in the middle of saying something. There was really I haven't even got to it yet, but you just interrupt me. Can I also make
It's
the point
it's got
that
very
there
little
were
to do with it.
multiple-
The Elsa and Frozen
Oh my
thing's got very
God.
little.
Do you care about YouTube? If you do, shut up and just let me say this one
Are you
thing,
serious?
Clown.
You interrupt me all the fucking time, Keemstar. You interrupt me
There
all the
were
time.
multiple articles.
We could say that the timing of the show was also perfect, as Bait had launched in 2016 during a massive wave of YouTube drama. In that sense, the podcast was perfectly positioned to capitalize on the momentum. In the end, the constant conflict between its hosts, which was the core appeal of the show, was also its greatest weakness. The fights between them extended off the podcast as well, leading to multiple falling outs. Over time, Keem replaced both Clown and Tommy with other co-hosts, including Anything for Views and Andy Milanakis, but the original chemistry was gone. Ultimately, there was no grand finale for the Baited podcast, just a slow decline into inactivity. Keemstar's next two attempts at creating a podcast were nowhere near as entertaining. First, there was Mom's Basement, which he initially hosted alongside FaZe Banks and Colossally Crazy. Not even 2 episodes in, there was already drama surrounding the show. Clown was upset that he had been censored during the editing process. As one might imagine, this led to a new fight between the team. Eventually, Colossal would withdraw from the show, leaving only Keem and Banks as the remaining hosts. Not that it really mattered, since the show itself wasn't particularly good. Unlike Baited, which had a strong emphasis on drama and conflict, Mom's Basement felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be. It was part interview, part commentary, part casual hangout. That lack of focus is likely why it never reached the same level of impact. It was also released exclusively on Spotify, which limited its discoverability. The next attempt at the podcast game was the Keemstar Show, co-hosted with a smaller YouTuber named Salvo Pancakes. It borrowed heavily from Baited's formula, with heated arguments and reactions to online drama.
What are you gonna do?
You pay the editor, bro?
What are you gonna do?
You pay the editor?
What are you, get the fuck
Okay, that was getting a little too what fucking happened? He intimate. ate assault!
Unfortunately, this attempt also failed for various reasons, the biggest being that Salvo simply wasn't a strong co-host and he was extremely cringe.
I agree. I'm so glad that you think of that.
If you could just
I'm
not touch
so
me.
glad that you finally are doing it live.
if you
Daddy finally came into 2022 YouTube. Oh my God, leave.
Overall, this entire thing just didn't offer enough value to justify itself as a standalone product. Around 2022, just as the Keemstar show was being kept on life support, Keem began brainstorming a new podcast idea, something different from anything he had done before. This time, he envisioned a show that would tap directly into Lolcow culture, a notorious corner of the internet dedicated to mocking individuals who became infamous through their own chaotic behavior. As mentioned earlier, and as many of you likely already know, the term Lolcow refers to someone who becomes a constant source of entertainment online, typically due to poor decision making, a lack of self-awareness, or an over-the-top personality. These individuals are not admired, they are ridiculed, often relentlessly. Keemstar saw potential in flipping the script. Rather than simply reporting on Lolcows from a distance, why not bring them directly into the spotlight? His idea was to assemble a cast of controversial internet creators and give them microphones. The hope was that their unfiltered behavior would create a kind of digital circus. It wouldn't require scripting or heavy production, the content would, in theory, create itself. The key behind the idea was that it wouldn't appeal to just one audience, since the show would attract both fans and haters of the featured personalities. By bringing together multiple Lolcows, it had the potential to pull viewers from various online communities, many of which, let's be honest, love to watch a good train wreck. In essence, Keemstar wasn't just launching a podcast, he wanted to create a content ecosystem built entirely on controversy. In an era where drama is currency, it was a move that felt equal parts reckless and brilliant. The original plan was for the podcast to be hosted by Boogie2988, DSP Gaming and Wings of Redemption. Keemstar was offering each of them $50,000 upfront, plus a share of the future revenue from the show. Honestly, that was a pretty good deal, especially considering these three are easily among the most hated content creators on the internet, and for valid reasons. Let's start with Boogie2988, who began his online journey as a seemingly genuine YouTuber who wanted to spread positivity, but has since devolved into an absolutely miserable waste of space. If there's a human equivalent of vermin, it would probably be him. Boogie is a manipulative person, always scheming to get what he wants, and when he doesn't, he throws a pathetic tantrum. At one point, he was working with a guy named Mike Kulm who was making a documentary on him. Boogie was actually really hyped about it, thinking it would paint him as a misunderstood guy who just needed some help. But somehow, the doc ended up exposing him as an even more twisted and selfish person than most people already thought. This is a man who blew a huge chunk of his money on hookers and then had the audacity to beg for online donations, crying about not wanting to be homeless. All the while, he refused to get a real job, throwing out every excuse in the book about why he couldn't work.
You're seeking out new work opportunities.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your background.
I am disabled, recognized by the state of Arkansas, but also the United States government, as I am extremely depressed. So there's some mental health issues that we bring to the table. I have no references, no work history. Should mention I'm also a felon.
Stop! You violated the law.
The truth is, Boogie is absolutely capable of working, he just thinks he's above it. This is someone who is slowly but surely spiraling downward, but has the ego of a man who is going to the top. And let's not forget his long, well-documented history of lies and contradictions that is so tangled up that even he probably doesn't know what's real anymore. Then there's the whole situation with his then 20-year-old girlfriend Desiree. She apparently came from a rough background and reached out to Boogie on Instagram saying she found him inspirational. Naturally, this guy took that as an opportunity, like he always does, and started a relationship with her. To anyone on the outside looking in, the massive age gap and the dynamic between these two looked seriously messed up, but Boogie just didn't care. Anyhow, there were plenty of reasons for him to take Keemstar's offer. He was desperate for money after blowing most of it on sex workers and gambling with cryptocurrency. His career was circling the drain, with his YouTube channel barely holding on. He also launched a merch store that looked like it came straight from a dollar store clearance bin. I mean, come on, what is this? So it's no surprise that this guy jumped at Keem's offer. It wasn't just a lifeline, it was probably his last shot at relevance. Also, let's not forget that Boogie, at the time, claimed he had blood cancer, something he conveniently used as an excuse to deflect criticism and justify some of his behavior. Just keep that in the back of your mind for now, because, as you probably suspect, it's going to come up again in a big way. The second genius on our list, Wings of Redemption, represents a completely different breed of internet infamy. Calling Wings controversial doesn't even scratch the surface.
You're worthless because, like, I don't give a shit if you watch or not. You're not worth any money to me.
At his peak, he was one of the most prominent Call of Duty YouTubers and was on track to build a successful and sustainable career in gaming content. But since then, his fall from grace has been nothing short of legendary, and calling it a fall might even be generous. It's more like a slow-motion collapse that has lasted for over a decade. Wings has become infamous not just for his gameplay, but for the constant stream of meltdowns, bad decisions and off-the-wall statements made during his livestreams. His outbursts became so common that entire troll channels sprang up with the sole purpose of archiving and making fun of his antics. Some of these channels upload multiple videos a week, and their compilations of bizarre moments including Wings sometimes rake up tens of thousands of views, often vastly outperforming his own content in the process. One of the more fascinating aspects of Wings' story is his long-standing history with Keemstar himself. Their connection goes all the way back to early 2010s, during the time when Keem was still making videos with Only Use Me Blade. Back then, both Keemstar and Blade frequently mocked Wings, sometimes publicly and brutally, so there's definitely some bad blood between them, making Wings' inclusion in the podcast even more surprising, if not ironic.
I mean, like, if you were so worried about me having it done in Mexico, why don't you donate the $25,000 so I can have it done right here in Conway?
All right, deal. If I donate the $25,000 to have it done in Conway and you survive, okay, then you have to box me a year after the surgery.
Do I have to answer that right now?
Hey, why?
Because
Why?
I want to think about it.
$25,000.
Because I'm not a fighter. I'm going to get my ass whooped.
Dude, I'm so horrible. I'm the worst person. I've done more for you, Wings, than your own friends. Your own fucking dollar millionaire friends won't pay for your doctor. I'm telling you right now, I will.
He was also once a member of the long-running podcast Painkiller Already, alongside fellow YouTubers like Woody's Gamertag and Kyle. However, he was eventually fired, largely due to his lack of commitment and what many believed was a tendency to sabotage the show with his behavior. What makes this person such a fascinating lolcow is not just the drama, but the almost surreal level of obliviousness he seems to have about his own situation. There are countless examples, like when his wife walks into a room to complain about something and Wings simply continues streaming completely unaffected. It's as if everything outside of his screen doesn't register. In every sense of the word, Wings of Redemption is a lolcow, which I guess makes him a perfect fit for the incoming podcast. Then we have DSP Gaming, who is often viewed as a walking contradiction. A man who has somehow managed to sustain a YouTube career despite consistently low viewership, widespread criticism, and an almost legendary level of self-sabotage.
So here's the deal. We got $22 of support tonight. All right? I'm not going to tell you guys anymore that we're doing the DLCs if we don't hit the goals. It's that simple.
What truly defines DSP in the eyes of many is his reputation for aggressive e-begging. At the same time, he has been exposed for spending thousands of dollars on mobile gacha games, leading many to question whether his financial struggles are genuine or self-inflicted. Given all of that, what happened next was unexpected, to say the least. When Keemstar approached DSP with an offer to co-host what was then going to be called the Lolcow podcast, DSP actually declined. Yes, despite his reputation for shamelessly asking fans for money, Phil turned down a $50,000 upfront offer, along with the opportunity to earn even more through podcast revenue. Unsurprisingly, Keem didn't take the rejection quietly. He publicly mocked DSP for refusing the deal, highlighting the irony that someone known for constantly begging for money would pass on such a lucrative opportunity.
I was going to have Wings of Redemption, Dark Side Phil, all right, and Boogie2988, have them as the host of a podcast and call it the Lolcow podcast, right? That's what I was going to call it.
Yeah.
I was going to pay them $50,000 each.
Wow, I'm making more than them.
For 1 year. For 1 year. And Darkside Phil.
I think Darkside Phil, if you hear this, I think you're a crazy person to walk away from that.
At one point, he even entered DSP's live chat during a stream to push him on the offer, only to be banned live on air by Phil.
So Keemstar, should I ban you now for, trying to derail my stream, or should I, bother telling everyone what you're talking about, derailing my stream? Or should I just outright just ban you and move on? Like, what should I do? So now Keemstar's banned from my channel.
There are 3 creators I know online who get tons of hate nonstop, and all 3 of them have money issues. Always going broke. DSP has been begging fucking the 200 people that show up to his stream to pay all of his bills. So I made some tweets, try to get a hold of him. He was the most difficult person in the world to get a hold of. So I give up on it, Even though it's a brilliant idea, and even though you shouldn't give up on your dreams, I give up on it. I'm off to doing other stuff. I'm building all different types of fucking shit.
This created a major feud between the two. They would exchange insults across multiple live streams, interviews, and other podcasts. Boogie and Wings, who were both eager to accept the deal due to their own financial instability, were understandably frustrated. Whatever the situation may have been, DSP's refusal to join is what ultimately killed the original version of the Lolcow podcast before it even got off the ground. Despite this early setback, Keemstar didn't completely abandon his plan. In fact, he continued floating the concept for nearly a year, keeping the idea alive through occasional mentions. He also remained in contact with both Boogie and Wings of Redemption, because he still wanted to milk some sort of content out of them. This eventually led to him organizing the boxing match between the two. It's hard to say what exactly Keemstar was thinking, or how he ever believed this was a good idea. This match was widely ridiculed and viewed as an absolute embarrassment, especially for Boogie, who failed to land even a single punch during the entire event. It's hard to believe that Boogie dedicated even a single hour to training before this match. I mean, who knew that putting 2 morbidly obese YouTubers who spend the vast majority of their time inside a house sitting in front of a screen doesn't translate well into a sporting event? Despite that, the boxing match revitalized the idea of the podcast, but still many delays continued to push the project back further than expected. This includes a strange incident where someone was accidentally added to their podcast group chat. That person, acting independently, went on to create social media accounts for the Lolcow podcast without giving anyone else in the group access. They resolved the situation by removing him from the chat and creating new social accounts under the name Lolcow Live, a name they ultimately decided to stick with. Also, DSP somehow re-entered the story, because apparently he was secretly talking with Wings and Boogie at the time, trying to convince them to start their own show without involving Keemstar. Unsurprisingly, the plan fell apart and was never brought up again. It wasn't until October of 2023 that things finally started to solidify. That month, the official Lolcow Live YouTube channel was created, signaling that the long-awaited project was finally becoming a reality. Then in November of the same year, the first official episode was released, and in the end, the hosting lineup looked a bit different from the original plan. While Wings of Redemption and Boogie 2988 remained part of the team, Keemstar brought in Tommy C, his former co-host from the Baited podcast, to round up the trio. This was a somewhat unexpected choice, as Tommy C isn't considered a lolcow in the traditional sense. Nevertheless, with its mix of unconventional personalities, the launch of the Lolcow Live marked the beginning of what would become one of the most bizarre podcasts in the online commentary space.
Well, I mean, therapy only works if you want it to work, and therapy only works if you put in the work. And, I can be kind of lazy sometimes, so I haven't always put in the work.
The first episode of Lolcow Live series serves as a perfect, albeit unintentional example of what this podcast represents, and not in a good way. Let's begin with the title. Boogie 2988 meltdown over Muta tweets. Girlfriend dumps him. I think this ultimately sets the tone for the kind of clickbait content the episode delivers. To understand the context, you need to know that Muta refers to the YouTuber Some Ordinary Gamers who has been openly critical of Boogie2988 both on Twitter and in his own videos, and frankly with good reason.
Boogie is one of those cases where not only has he fallen off, but he's cratered to the center of the goddamn planet. And it's all because Boogie himself is a liar, Boogie himself is a manipulator, and he's somebody that I think is probably one of the most awful peoples on this platform.
Muta isn't just randomly taking shots at some random fat guy on the internet, he's been calling out Boogie's problematic behavior in a very direct and unapologetic way. He was also very vocal about the disturbing nature of Boogie's relationship with his girlfriend, like the obvious power imbalance, trauma bonding, and the uncomfortable age difference. This has naturally created some tension between the two, to put it mildly. The so-called meltdown mentioned in the title never actually happens. What we got instead is Boogie desperately trying to play the victim while discussing his rocky relationship with Muta, even going as far as to say he's terrified of him.
And I told you today, I just didn't want to bring up Muta because Muta scares me. He scares me. He does. He's got a very large audience, and there are some crazy people out there. And I don't think Muta's. I'm not scared of Muta. Don't get me wrong. I should not say I'm scared of Muta. I'm just scared that there's a lot of people in his audience.
It is a bizarre claim, especially considering Boogie once dragged Muta's wife into their feud, hardly the actions of someone afraid, but rather someone desperate and frankly pathetic. As for the rest of the episode, Muta is barely even mentioned. The majority of the discussion is actually centered around the Mike Coombe documentary. And let's not forget the bit about Boogie's girlfriend dumping him, which was another massive lie. If I were you, I would get used to it, because clickbait is one of the core features of Lolcow Live.
Well, the point that I'm making is, this shit does not jive with my anxiety disorder. That's all I'm trying to say.
The most unintentionally funny moment comes when Boogie tries to portray himself as the victim of online harassment while sitting next to fucking Wings of Redemption, a guy who could probably have an entire Netflix documentary made about the scale and presence of the hate he's received from internet trolls. And yet, Wings somehow manages to carry himself with more composure than this slob, which is saying something. In the end, this debut episode was just really forgettable. Now, there are a few more people we need to introduce to this circus that is called Lolcow Live. While these three clearly made up the core cast, Keemstar also brought in a secondary group which included Turkey Tom, Nicolas Diorio and Murahar himself. These three were meant to play the role of the so-called farmers, basically commentators or observers brought in to analyze the main lolcows. Or at least that seemed to be the idea. To this day, it's still unclear what their actual purpose on the podcast was supposed to be. After the debut that we just discussed, the farmers were given their own dedicated video, which ended up being their one and only episode. That said, they would appear individually on streams from time to time and at one point seemed to have had some influence behind the scenes. For instance, Nicolas Diorio was at one point trying to help bring in new guests, suggesting there were plans for deeper involvement. But eventually all three were completely cut off from the project. Honestly, this whole farmers aspect of Lolcow Live feels confusing and unnecessary, like most things Keemstar gets involved with. Still, to move the story forward, let's take a closer look at that single farmers episode because there's a lot to unpack.
It's just a thing to me, like, I look at Boogie like a fucking puppy at this point, okay? Like, I don't even think that he's just, like, all there.
With both Murahar and Boogie now being part of the same show, a confrontation between them felt inevitable. And of course, Keemstar was almost certainly hoping that would be the case. He knows better than anyone that drama is the most valuable currency in online entertainment. Unfortunately for him, the big blow-up didn't happen on Lolcow Live, it happened someplace else. This is where Review Tech USA enters the story, a YouTuber who had been following the drama from the sidelines. During one of his own live streams, he managed to get both Boogie and Muta on a call, and that's where the real confrontation finally took place.
I'm not mad at you.
We're just like disgusted with my behavior.
To be mad at you would mean that you would have to like matter to me personally.
Well, that's true.
I don't get mad at you. I can't.
Right.
I don't have the time. It's just like I think you're a compulsive liar. Is sort of the.
I respect that. I understand that. I've definitely been an unreliable witness.
If anyone else made a documentary like this that had big financial discrepancies, they'd be.
Yeah, you'd be f***ing mad. You'd be yelling at us. You'd be like, "Where do you
No,
get
I
your
wouldn't. I'm so
information?"
used to you being wrong about me. I'm numb to it at this point.
How am I wrong about you?
I
called about these discrepancies. That's what I'm
talking
asking
about
you.
in the past, man. And
How have I been wrong in the past? Please explain exactly how I've been wrong in the past.
My 18-year-old girlfriend's a start when she's not 18.
I never made a public statement.
You
by the way.
tweeted that
Never.
last week. You tweeted
When did I
that
tweet
last
about?
week.
When did I tweet? What
You
did I
said
tweet
you're telling
exactly?
people she's 18. I never fucking
no,
did.
because
I never
was
did.
the one that talked about it in that leak.
No, but you tweeted it. It's on your feed right now.
Naturally, Keemstar was furious. Not only had he missed the opportunity to host the drama explosion himself, but it also happened on a platform run by someone he absolutely despises. Both of these gentlemen have a long and messy history, so the fact that it was Rich who ended up getting the tea was a big blow to Keemstar's ego. Keem responded in typical fashion, with a public meltdown on Twitter and furious messages in private DMs.
I fucking called you. We spoke. I said, don't give Rich the tea. Your exact words to me were, oh, I'm just going to go on there and tell him I'm busy, right? And then you have a face-off with Muta on Rich's stream. The face-off between you and Muta should be on your podcast. That's monetized, that you make money on. Fuck you and your stupid fucking head. This is not a mistake. This is not an accident. I fucking hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
Yeah, obviously I fucked up. I was just going to go there to promote the show. I didn't know Muta was going to come in there and pull his shit. I should have left when Muta showed up and said, save it for the show. But you're right.
I need you to fuck off. Like, seriously, fuck off. I need you to get on your fucking hands and knees, have your girlfriend fucking film you and say, I'm sorry, Keemstar. I'm sorry, Jordy. I'm sorry, fucking Tommy C. The entire storyline of what's been happening on episode 1 to fucking Review Tech USA, because I'm so thirsty to just talk to someone. I'm that big of a fucking loser. Make that video, you piece of shit.
He told Boogie he was fired from the show and even demanded that he get on his hands and knees to beg for forgiveness. Yes, literally.
I'm sorry, Tommy C. I'm sorry, Daddy Keemstar. I'm sorry, Nicholas Di Fiorio. I don't know how to pronounce him. I'm sorry, Jordy.
This entire situation devolved into a new level of absurdity that even Lolcow Live couldn't have scripted. It was beyond embarrassing. As for the farmers themselves, they mostly just commented on the situation, sharing their opinions on Boogie Muta drama. They also touched on a few other topics including Dark Side Phil, but other than that there isn't much more to say about the episode. It was mostly a reaction segment with very little lasting impact. Boogie, despite Keemstar's dramatic outbursts and public threats, didn't actually get fired from Lolcow Live. I suppose it would have looked terrible to lose one of the show's main hosts after just one episode, so for the sake of optics and probably out of desperation, he stayed on. The few episodes that followed were again fairly uneventful, and honestly exactly what you would expect. It was standard, low-effort commentary from the usual suspects. None of the hosts had anything particularly insightful or interesting to say, and in many cases they just recycled the same tired stories they've already told hundreds of times across their own channels. At best it was repetitive, at worst painfully boring. It didn't take long for Keemstar to realize that these three weren't going to generate meaningful content on their own. So he decided to inject a little life into it by bringing in some outside guests. By the 6th episode, Lolcow Live featured its first guest, June the King, a content creator known for making deep dive documentary style videos on various internet figures, including both Boogie and Wings of Redemption. Before June was even brought on, the episode kicked off with a completely bizarre segment. Lolcow Live had apparently landed its first sponsor, Meta PCs. The idea was that each of the three hosts would record their own personalized commercial for the sponsor and then they decide which one was the best. Boogie went first, and what he came up with was downright surreal.
Ho, 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 ho. Now what do you want for Christmas, little girl?
I want a computer for Meta PCs.
Ho, ho, ho. Well, they've got such great deals, Santa could get that for you.
He dressed up as Santa Claus while his girlfriend played the role of a child asking for a Meta PC for Christmas. It was beyond uncomfortable, it was beyond confusing, and I don't even need to mention that it was hard to sit through. Tommy C then made his own ad, which was actually normal. Luckily, and maybe thanks to divine intervention, Wings never ended up making his skit because the trolls caught wind of the sponsorship and began review bombing Meta PC's products. You seriously can't make this shit up. The whole thing imploded before it even had a chance to get off the ground, and keep in mind, this was just the intro of the video I talked about. Yes, we didn't even start June the King episode and I already got sidelined, so I apologize for that one, but in all honesty, there isn't really much to say.
His condolences.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
The hosts just talked with June for a while, but it was clear that Boogie and Wings hadn't even watched his videos. They didn't have anything meaningful to say, just awkward small talk and surface level engagement. It felt like the only person who had done any homework was Tommy C, who at least seemed familiar with some of his work. So what was the point of this? Well, just 2 videos later, Keemstar would actually participate for the first time in Lolcow Live. Up to that point, he was meant to act as more of a manager, someone who stayed behind the scenes. That all went out the window when he joined the show, and when he did, he made his presence known immediately.
I don't understand why June the King, or whatever his name, our first guest, comes on the show, all right? This fucking virgin looking loser looks like he doesn't even know the warmth of a woman, all right? By the way, he's on his 3rd documentary of Wings of Redemption, all right? And nobody's bullying him. Why is he not being bullied? But that's what I'm saying, all right? They're sitting there and they're bullying Wings for not watching the video. Wings, your response should be, I'm not watching your shit. I don't give a fuck about your fucking shit. I don't give a final... Be like, you're here right now and I can't even think of one interesting fucking question to ask you because you're like... white bread and butter.
From the moment he came on, Kim went on the offensive, particularly targeting Wings of Redemption. He grilled him relentlessly about why he didn't go off on June the King during his guest appearance. Keemstar clearly expected some kind of confrontation or drama, but it never happened, and that apparently made him mad. Everyone watching this was understandably confused. June the King was arguably the most respectful and polite guest you can have on a show like this. He wasn't confrontational and he didn't throw insults, so this frustration over Wings not attacking him came off as bizarre. It quickly became clear that Keem wasn't interested in productive conversation or actual insight. He wanted the Lolcows to lash out at everyone who'd ever made content about them, whether it was June, Turkey Tom or any other commentary channel. Manufactured outrage was the name of the game. Boogie, being a massive ass-kisser, immediately jumped on board. Now that June was no longer on the stream, this genius began talking behind his back, shit-talking and pandering to Kim like his life depended on it.
I said June makes good videos. The reality of it is, your videos are boring as hell, June. If I, and I should have said this to your face when I had the opportunity, but I'll say it here. Come back on and I'll say it to your face. But your videos are boring as hell. They're about me. They're about Wings of Redemption. Could you pick a more boring fucking topic? Okay? You have no personality. The guy had the personality of fucking wet paint. And Wings, out of anybody who should have been pushing him back that episode, it should have been you.
This is textbook Boogie behavior. He lacks the spine to confront someone directly, so instead he waits until they're gone and then talks trash. It's the kind of manipulative, passive-aggressive move that's earned him his reputation. Now, you're probably wondering, where was Tommy C during all of this? After all, he'd been a consistent part of the show up until that point. Well, Keem claimed Tommy wasn't included in the episode because he was sick. This was apparently a lie. He also added that time zone issues made things difficult to coordinate since Tommy lives in Germany, but anyone paying attention could tell that was just an excuse.
My issue with Tommy, and the only reason why Tommy isn't here is because first he wasn't scheduled to be on this show because he's sick, but then he streamed today, and it didn't. For whatever, I think he can't stream after 5 p.m. Is that something like that? Because he's in Germany, so he's like in a completely different. His kid's got to sleep or whatever.
The real reason, as it turns out, was far more suspicious. Around this time, rumors began to surface that Keem was looking to quietly push Tommy out of the show. The reasons given were strange. Claims like Tommy interrupts people too much, which anyone who had actually watched the episodes knew wasn't true. In fact, in the very episode Keemstar appeared in, the entire panel actually criticized Tommy for being too polite to June, accusing him of kissing his ass instead of stirring up drama like it was expected of him. This charade made one thing painfully obvious. Lolcow Live was about drama for drama's sake, no matter how forced it had to be. At one point, Keemstar reminded everyone that his old friend Only Use Me Blade would be the next guest on the podcast. He then turned to Boogie and Wings, asking them if they were prepared for the upcoming episode.
So next up on the show is Only Use Me Blade. He's going to be a guest on this week's show. Do you guys have things that you want to talk about with him? Are we prepared for this?
Now, if you know anything about Only Use Me Blade, you're likely aware that his online reputation is complicated to say the least. He's a known chronic alcoholic whose public appearances are often described as deranged. While he is often seen as a clown or internet joke, there's actually a much darker side to him that's harder to ignore. He's been accused of some genuinely disturbing shit, not to mention the numerous unsettling clips circulating online of his behavior while drunk.
Like, I've tried to help you out, but you're not help-outable. You're not help-outable. That's the truth.
We are talking about someone who is willing to destroy himself for the sake of fleeting internet clout. Alright, I forgot to mention that a guy literally died during one of his streams not long before this episode. Despite the topic being extremely serious, these guys talked about it with a shocking lack of empathy or awareness.
Hold on, you're only going to confront him about his alcohol problems?
Alcohol problems, raping people, basically killing his friend.
Fucking what? Right, you left that part out.
What about the throwing the dogs?
Yeah, throwing of animals. Raping. You don't remember he raped somebody on the fucking RV trip?
In case you're wondering, no, I'm not the one censoring any of the words here. The beeps are built into the show itself. Apparently, one of the previous episodes got age restricted. As a result, the crew decided to start censoring their own language to avoid any further trouble with the algorithm. It's a small detail but worth noting. The episode itself wrapped up in a predictably shallow way. After all the posturing and vague threats, the Lolcows came to the bold conclusion that they were going to fight back against their so-called detractors. What that actually means remains hilariously unclear.
I'm not going to be nice to fucking Kyle from PKA anymore. I'm not going to be nice to June the fucking King. I'm not going to be nice to you, Keem. I'm not going to be nice online. I'm just going to fucking be the asshole that I was born to be.
It seemed like they were trying to hype themselves up for some kind of redemption arc or edgy new phase of the show, where they'd be more confrontational on stream, more reactive, more something. But let's be honest, they don't have the energy, the strategy, or frankly the courage to pull that off in any meaningful way. Nevertheless, Lolcow Live did indeed feature Only Use Me Blade as the guest, and at the time it was considered one of the better episodes, mainly due to Blade's uncanny behavior. What made the entire thing even more absurd, however, was watching Boogie, of all people, try to morally grandstand during the conversation.
I was not familiar with you until today. and I watched 2 different videos about you, Sunny V2 and Internet AJ, and I do think you're scum of the earth. And that's coming from me, and I'm pretty scummy. Number one, I'm the son of an alcoholic, and I saw in you a lot of the things that I did not like about my dad, and we all know what my dad did to me and my family.
Yes, this guy, one of the worst creators on the platform, was attempting to position himself as the voice of moral clarity in a discussion with Blade. Also, is there a single episode where this guy doesn't somehow find a way to redirect the conversation back to himself and his personal trauma? Once again, we were treated to his well-worn tale of abuse as if he can get through a single fucking stream without trying to gain sympathy points. Eventually, Mudahar also joined the panel to question Blade, and the entire thing just turned into a comedy skit.
I'm not a racist person, but for some reason, in a playful, weird way, I say the N-word when I'm...
What?
I really
Playful,
That's interesting.
playful, weird way, huh?
One moment that definitely surprised me personally, because I had no idea, was when Blade casually mentioned that he was banned from Kick. Yes, Kick. The same site that's infamous for hosting some of the most deprived creators the internet has to offer. That Kick. That's honestly astonishing. If you manage to get banned from that site, you're in a truly elite category of problematic people. At that point, you're practically rubbing elbows with a digital equivalent of Al Capone. I don't know, that's the best example I had. To make things worse, here is some really sad irony. In the majority of the episode, Blade openly discussed his struggles with alcohol and its effects on his life. You have to understand that his primary source of income comes from hosting drunk streams where viewers would donate exorbitant amounts of money just to watch him continue drinking. These streams often ended with Blade being blackout drunk, and over the years this has resulted in some serious long-term health issues. During the interview, Blade said that he understands he has a problem and will try to manage it more responsibly moving forward. However, when the episode was recorded, it wasn't published on the Lolcow live platform until the following Sunday. And here comes the insane part. On the exact same day the episode went live, Blade began a 50-hour drunk stream during which he consumed approximately 2.5 bottles of Jägermeister. Yes, you did hear that correctly.
Blade decided to hype up his episode, so he started streaming like the day before it came out. So I get a call all of a sudden from Blade at like, I don't know, maybe 10 a.m. or something. He called me, seemed normal. When's the episode coming out? And then he said, figure it out. And I'm like, wait, are you drinking? I pull up his stream. Sure enough, he's drinking at 10 a.m. on the Sunday that it's supposed to come out. He did a 50-hour drunk stream. Got so drunk that he said the word, I'm not even joking, about 150 times.
After the stream was done, sometime later, Blade made a short video addressing his viewers to prove that he wasn't fucking dead, because people actually believed that he was.
This isn't even a stream, this is just a wellness check. I'm cool. I saw some bullshit talking about I got arrested or something. That shit happened, dude. Figure it out.
Keemstar absolutely loved the Only Use Me Blade episode, especially given how well it was received. It was exactly the kind of content this podcast thrives on. He was also aware of the infamous 50-hour drunk stream, and naturally he saw it as yet another opportunity to squeeze even more content out of the situation. Keem and Wings of Redemption then went live to confront Brian about his actions. What followed was a short stream where they questioned Blade about the binge, trying to get him to explain himself.
You're kicked out of everywhere because of the drunk streams. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, isn't there...
I know.
Isn't there a moment where you're like, okay, I'm actually f***ing up?
No, trust me. I've been dealing with the realization that I'm f***ing up. I get it.
If you've followed this man for any length of time, you'll know that he has a long history of justifying or minimizing his behavior. He's been stuck in this pattern of alcoholism and denial for over a decade, and by now it's almost become second nature. Keemstar even offered Blade a $1,000 bet. If he could stay sober for 2 months, he'd win the money.
You want to do a $1,000 bet that you can't be sober for, let's say, 2 months?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, $1,000 bet.
You heard it.
And literally just a few days after that, he was doing a drunk stream in California. Oh, sorry, scratch that. Apparently he was drinking that very same night.
You guys remember this? Like, you know, I do the $1,000 bet with Blade or whatever, and it's right here, right now on stream. I do a $1,000 bet with him to stop drinking. He goes, no. Well, I didn't know this, but he had plans to go to another viewer's house and drink that night. So that's why he wouldn't do the bet. No, he didn't do the bet. Of course, he gets wasted, and he's staying with someone that's like a Unabomber, all right? Like, it's a guy that lives in the middle of fucking nowhere, and it's just him. He's got nothing but guns and all kinds of crazy shit. And Blade got so drunk, he woke the guy up, so the guy started beating on Blade drunk.
Shoes on.
Hug me, hug me, hug me.
I'll hug you as you get your shoes on. You woke me up out of a dead sleep to be a fucking weirdo.
Same
No, not same with you.
This is one of the few examples while watching Lolcow live that I'm actually lost for words. This relapse wasn't just disappointing, it was predictable. Blade isn't just someone who occasionally drinks too much, he's battling a deeply rooted addiction that's gone untreated for years. And let's be honest, Lolcow Live is not the kind of platform that could turn his situation around. The show thrives on chaos, not support. This was essentially the beginning of Keemstar becoming much more visible and active on the podcast. While his original role was meant to be behind the scenes, it quickly became clear that he couldn't resist inserting himself into the spotlight. Most likely because he saw the potential to stir up controversy, which has always been his bread and butter. From that point on, the show started facing heavy criticism from viewers who began accusing it of manufacturing drama. These accusations weren't exactly unfounded, and Keemstar was largely seen as the driving force behind it. He seemed to envision Lolcow Live as some kind of expansive Lolcow universe, complete with interconnected storylines, lore, and reoccurring conflicts, almost like a dysfunctional reality show disguised as a podcast. For example, Boogie was always the most hated host on the panel, which Keemstar was all too eager to exploit. Just a few episodes later, Keem joined the panel once again, and it opened with a montage of old, controversial clips of Boogie saying some messed up things that people dug up and posted on Reddit.
Hey Boogie, what's with this video of you in your 30s talking about being attracted to 15-year-old girls? Whoa, what the fuck?
There's all these girls coming in their Halloween outfits, and girls, I love your Halloween outfits. Two suggestions though. The first, could you stop being, 15? Because you're making me feel like a ball. And secondly, could you do it in this general area? Just kind of.
What the fuck?
What did I say?
Okay.
Yeah, I think you probably should not do it when you're 15 years old. And if you are not 15-year-old, please sit on my face, thank you.
Later on, Keem even tried to convince Boogie to strip naked with only black bars covering him and go live on Twitch. At the time, this was a well-known trend on the streaming platform, and they wanted to take the joke and turn it into some kind of viral spectacle. Of course, Boogie agreed, because if there's one thing that has remained consistent about him, it's his willingness to degrade himself publicly for a sliver of online relevance.
Daddy will show it all. Daddy will show it all. Here we go. Here we go. Black bar meta. Black bar meta.
He's become the definition of a digital parasite, but let's not be too harsh on the guy. After all, cancer is a serious illness that affects people in different ways, both physically and emotionally. Unsurprisingly, the stunt didn't go viral in the way Boogie had hoped. Instead, it got him banned on Twitch, because he apparently failed to properly cover himself with black bars, resulting in part of his testicles being visible. Since we are already on the topic of manufactured drama, let's talk about what happened just 2 episodes later. This particular video was titled Boogie's Girlfriend Cheated, not clickbait, but surprise surprise, it was clickbait. In fact, it was some of the most blatantly misleading content the show had posted so far. Basically, 2 random guests were brought onto the stream, each making wild claims about being involved in sexually charged conversations with the significant others of Boogie and Wings of Redemption.
For the last 2 months, I've been manipulating Desi and getting closer with her. We've been Snapchatting and talking sexually for a while. I wanted to continue this and see how far I could take things, but now I feel like the podcast is needing a guest.
One of them claimed he had been in DMs with Wings' wife, Kelly, while the other alleged he had exchanged explicit messages with Boogie's girlfriend Des, with the implication that both women were either cheating or on the verge of it. Now, given that cheating was literally in the title of the episode, you'd think there would be more substance to these claims. Maybe a screenshot, a voice memo, or something remotely credible. But no, what we got instead were two shameless clout-chasing morons that just wanted to be on the show. The guy targeting Wings had absolutely nothing to back up his story. All we know is that he messaged Kelly at some point, and from the sounds of it, that's about as far as the affair ever went. To make matters worse, during the episode he broke into this weird, random shadowboxing routine, and he also fractured his hand while doing this. Like, what is happening here?
2, 1, and gassed.
The second guest, who claimed to have had explicit conversations with Boogie's girlfriend, was somehow even more embarrassing. Despite his big talk, he also had no screenshots. Then, in a last-ditch effort to lend legitimacy to his claim, he actually called his wife live on stream and asked her to confirm that he did in fact have sexual conversations with Des.
What do you know? You're on the podcast right now. What do you know about Boogie's girlfriend and me? Like, what's been going on?
For a while.
And how deep has it gone?
Pretty deep.
So how deep was it gone? Was it a little sexual or no?
In the Snapchats, I think that's pretty obvious.
Let that sink in. This guy called his own wife to vouch for his alleged sexting with another woman. You couldn't script something like this pathetic. Keemstar desperately wanted this story to be true, even though it was obviously not. So he treated the wife's confirmation like it was some kind of smoking gun.
Boogie, I am concerned that this might potentially be real. She won't come on camera, and his wife just backed up the story. That is weird that he just randomly called his wife, and she's like, yeah, me and my husband been texting her back and forth.
According to him, that phone call was strong evidence that Des did indeed do something behind Boogie's back. He even suggested that the two guests should now get into a boxing match, because apparently that's how conflicts are resolved in the Lolcow universe. This entire ordeal is a textbook example of why people say the show is fake. Clearly, there was something there with these two guys, but the whole situation was blown far out of proportion. Wanting to stir up even more drama, Boogie and Wings decided to call Ethan Ralph on the podcast specifically to provoke a fight, since Ralph had been loudly and publicly trashing the show.
You know the difference between me and you and this other joke Boogie that I'm about to go off on here in a second? You two weigh about 1,000 pounds combined. I do not.
Ethan Ralph is arguably an even bigger Lolcow than any of these people. He has his own history of controversies and personal meltdowns that could fill an entire documentary on their own. To give you some idea of the caliber of person we're talking about, Ralph has had multiple run-ins with the law, including a particularly notorious incident where he uploaded a sex tape involving himself and his ex-girlfriend without her knowledge or consent. And if that wasn't enough, in the episode we're discussing, Ralph was actually calling in from Mexico, where he had apparently fled to avoid paying child support. Also, this guy likes to call himself unironically as a Ralpha male, which creates this cringe feeling in my spine that I can't even begin to describe.
And you think that's impressive to the Ralpha male? Boogie, she looks like shit. She would have to be with somebody like you. You're not impressing anybody.
Despite being an absolute cockroach of a man, he spent much of the episode smugly antagonizing both Wings and Boogie as though he was somehow above them in terms of character.
Just listen to me come on the show and liven it up immediately. Because both these guys suck. You guys are talking about aliens like you're George Norrie or something.
Blair enjoyed it, Amanda Morris enjoyed it.
Did you enjoy your daddy jacking you off?
Is that how you keep
about
blowing
your
your brains out,
girlfriend
Ralph?
3 days ago.
Because the women
by
that you
some
hurt and the
fat
women you
fuck that
molested,
nobody
you
even
they
fucking
enjoyed it?
knows.
Someone in the comments said that Ralph sounds like Christian if he were capable of forming coherent sentences. For some reason, that quote lives rent-free in my head. Anyway, he was so annoying that at one point even Keemstar got up from his seat and just walked off during the episode. It was at this point that I genuinely started questioning why am I even continuing to make this video. I am using my free time to watch these social rejects have spasm in front of a camera, like what am I even doing? But despite that, I somehow kept going. To be fair, I should clarify that not every guest on Lolcow Live has been a complete loser. There have been a few bright spots. For instance, they somehow managed to bring on Wendigoon at one point, and even Harley from Epic Mealtime made an appearance.
No, the first time I trained with Sam.
Did y'all pay Sam money?
No, I didn't pay Sam money.
Okay, I'm about to say, because y'all got money to fucking train. I hope you ain't giving it to Sam instead of a real boxing trainer.
So yeah, it wasn't entirely a parade of clowns, but things were definitely not going well for the podcast as it had slowly begun to show signs of falling apart. Firstly, it didn't take long after Ethan Ralph's disastrous episode for Wings of Redemption to rage quit the show. To understand why, you have to consider that both Wings and Boogie had been the primary punching bags of the fanbase practically since day one. From the very beginning, viewers were brutal, and one of the harshest reoccurring insults was calling both of them PDF files, a not so subtle euphemism accusing them of being predators, mostly based on clips like these.
I did say the age of consent should be 12. You know why I said that? Because growing up, in high school, I knew girls that were like 12, 13, 14. Fuck on the regular.
In all fairness, many of the clips involving Wings are either cherry-picked or completely taken out of context, but even so, a lot of the shit he said in the past sounds bad, really bad. And given the kind of audience that Lolcow Live attracts, it's no surprise that these accusations kept surfacing. The trolls would spam that stuff constantly, both in the live chat and on the show's subreddit. Now, if you're someone with even a little bit of media training or thick skin, you would know that the smart thing to do would be to ignore it. But that's not exactly Wings' strong suit, because the guy has the emotional resilience of a wet cardboard. Naturally, this whole situation sent Keemstar into a panic spiral. The show was already crumbling and now one of the core hosts was threatening to walk. In a desperate move, Keem went live and literally begged Wings to join the call so they could hash things out.
Fine, and let's see if we can save Wings from leaving the show. I personally think I can. I'm very hopeful, but he's pretty upset. He feels like he's been ignored. He is not on Discord. I don't know what to do now. What the fuck? I actually don't know what to do now. Is he ghosting me? He agreed to come on. It wasn't clickbait. I got text conversations with Wings. He's supposed to...
has been forwarded to...
Okay.
Some viewers even offered to pay Wings to show up. His response was this isn't about the money, which is complete bullshit. Money is literally the reason he agreed to do this circus of a podcast in the first place. Let's not pretend this was ever about some personal growth. At one point, Keemstar even called him directly to convince him to rejoin the show, and here's where it gets really embarrassing.
Who is this?
It's the best part of Wings.
Oh, it's Kelly?
Yeah.
Kelly, what's going on? Why is he not coming on?
I was supposed to tell you that there is no happy medium. That's it. That's what I'm supposed to tell you.
Kelly, come on. Well, he's got to come on to talk about it.
Instead of answering himself, Wings handed the phone to his wife, who then proceeded to argue with Keem while Wings whispered what she should say in the background. I mean, come on, how much more pathetic can you get? Eventually, he did come back to plead his case.
I've lost numerous, probably tens of thousands of dollars through sponsorships and stuff like deals that just doesn't want to happen. And all this is propagated by the stuff that you're wanting to let run rampant in chat because you want another 30 or 40 viewers. Because it's only 30 or 40 viewers that are doing this, right?
In a nutshell, his main issue was that he wanted bigger moderation in the subreddit and the live chat. He even went so far to suggest creating his own mod team. Keemstar, predictably, wasn't having it. After all, shit-talking is literally the lifeblood of Lolcow Live. That's what the audience comes for. Sanitizing the show would defeat the entire purpose. This situation really highlighted two major things that Wings doesn't seem to understand. First, Keemstar is a millionaire with multiple projects and ventures constantly in motion. Lolcow Live is just some side hustle he likes to do, and Wings gets mad that he personally isn't deleting Reddit posts just because someone called him a mean name.
The only time period I would have had today to do this is I would have had to do one of these. Yeah, excuse me, Silicon Valley. Yeah, excuse me, developers and investors. Yes, okay. Can I put you on hold for 1 minute while I go delete a Reddit post? Like, this is my day. You don't understand what my day is and what I'm doing.
Second, and more importantly, this guy still doesn't seem to grasp what the entire show is actually about. The premise from day one has always been, let's laugh at the Lolcows. Keemstar literally starts some episodes by playing old humiliating clips of the hosts, like that one where Wings scratches his balls and then sniffs his fingers on stream.
Yeah, it's you pulling wedgies and then sniffing it.
That video.
What the hell?
I can tell you exactly what happened in that motherfucking video. See, I got these huge nuts that make basketballs envious.
What exactly did Wings think he signed up for? To make it even more absurd, he was upset that some guests, not just fans, had also called him a PDF file. Ethan Ralph, for example, made those accusations during his appearance, and keep in mind, Boogie and Wings were the ones who wanted to bring him to the show. In the end, Keemstar begrudgingly met Wings halfway and agreed to implement a bit more moderation, likely just enough to keep the guy from walking away again.
Okay, Kelly, we'll meet him like 75% of the way.
What's 75% of the way?
I don't know. We got to talk about it. That's why I want him to get in here and explain what needs to be done.
Wings returned to the hosting panel and the show limped on, still trying to hold itself together while being one bad stream away from completely collapsing. Around this time, Nicolas Diorio, one of the original farmers involved in the early stages of Lolcow Live, released a video outlining just how dysfunctional this entire project had become.
I never formally quit the show. I just left the group chat. And I think even if Keem is able to revive it this week, I think the show's still dead. In fact, I think the show's been dead for a month. Channel. These people need to have time to sit there, gel, talk about trending topics, learn each other's ins and outs and quirks, and build their chemistry. But by episode 4, we're taking a hit in views by like 10,000 views, and we're talking about like the podcast is going to end tomorrow. The dream is dead. We need to do something drastic to raise viewership, and it just became like we have to fake something, and that's what they started doing. They just started faking content.
His main criticism focused on the show's unhealthy obsession with manufacturing drama. According to the Oreo, there was already plenty of organic conflict and controversy surrounding the cast, so there was no need to artificially inflate it for views. He also shed light on why the farmers only appeared in a single episode. Apparently, Keemstar's grand vision was for the farmers to host their own weekly spin-off stream, and he expected them to do it without pay. Unsurprisingly, that idea died almost immediately. Perhaps the most telling anecdote came from the episode featuring June the King. Originally, Keemstar had wanted Nicolas Diorio to book Chris Chan as a guest.
And by the way, the only reason June the King happened, I think I got him late because Keem was dead set on bringing on Chris Chan, who, in my opinion, I'm so sorry, is like too retarded to function. Like, this person, I'm not even sure they can operate a keyboard, right? Like, I'm writing back to them, they're talking to me about Jesus.
Naturally, Nick wasn't exactly thrilled with the idea. The fact that this was even seriously considered speaks volumes about how little regard Keemstar had for the integrity of his podcast. By this point, Diorio had become openly critical of Lolcow Live and was vocal about his belief that the show needed to end. And it wasn't hard to see why. This project was falling apart on every level. The show's editor, for instance, had been dropping the ball badly. To put things into perspective, Lolcow Live wasn't really bringing in much money. Each of the hosts was earning only about $1,000 a month. The editor, on the other hand, was making $2,000 per month, which was obviously significantly more. Despite that, he failed to do his job properly, to a point where he forgot to upload any YouTube shorts for over 2 weeks, something Keemstar ended up confronting him about live on stream.
I'm telling you right now, if this was like the real world, right, and this was in the internet, right, and you were working at a corporation and you were like, yeah, well, you know, I had 2 weeks off and da-da-da-da, so I just forgot to do it, da-da-da-da, they're gonna fire you. They're gonna fire you.
And that was just one issue among the many. The episode featuring Harley from Epic Mealtime had to be completely reshoot because someone botched the audio. Even Keemstar himself didn't know how to properly set up his microphone on multiple occasions. From a technical standpoint, it was a nightmare. By February of 2024, as the 20th episode was being released, it felt like the wheels were completely falling off. Half the internet was already predicting the show's inevitable collapse. Lolcow Live wasn't just showing cracks anymore, it was practically disintegrating in real time. For you to understand just how much of a complete disaster this situation has become, consider this. Not even 2 weeks had passed before Wings was once again threatening to quit the show, claiming that Keemstar had failed to uphold his end of the deal.
Wings, we already talked about this.
No. Here's what's happening. You either make me a mod or I leave.
We had a deal a week
ago. The deal sucks. You said 78 hours. It's been 78 hours. Make me a mod or I leave.
This is on you. This isn't Keemstar not doing his job. We have an agreement that you get 2 moderators and you didn't do it. So now I'm being harassed by you because you didn't do your job. You are not a victim.
The original agreement between the two was that the Wings would be allowed to choose 2 moderators for the chat. However, he suddenly changed his mind and demanded to be the sole moderator himself, which was obviously a bad idea, as it gave him free rein to ban anyone who wanted to troll him during the stream. To be fair, Wings probably has more dedicated detractors than almost anyone else on YouTube. There are literally dozens of channels devoted entirely to mocking him and archiving his most embarrassing moments. In this latest episode of Needless Drama, he claimed that his trolls had more or less abandoned him before the launch of Lolcow Live, saying they got bored. But the podcast has now revived them and drawn them back into his orbit.
Here's the issue. I had starved my trolls out to the point that they didn't mess with me anymore. Okay. And as soon as I got back onto this podcast, we didn't do a censorship on any of like the openings or live streams. It was all no holds barred, anything goes. And it basically gave them a platform which reinvigorated them.
What he completely fails to understand is how the internet actually works. His trolls didn't disappear because they lost interest, they faded away because he was slowly becoming irrelevant. His personal streams were barely pulling in 200 viewers, while Lolcow Live was hitting nearly 5,000. That kind of contrast says everything. Even Murahar chimed in at one point to call out his absurd and out-of-touch behavior. The fact is, Wings still hasn't grasped the basic truth that attention brings criticism. If you want the spotlight, you have to be able to handle the heat. But instead of taking any accountability, he did what he always does, went on another emotional rant during Lolcow Live, played the victim and broke down on stream yet again. Keemstar tried once more to negotiate with him.
You're trying to get rid of like this certain group of people that you're very familiar with, right?
Correct.
You are going to end up banning actual fans that just don't like you. You're going to end up banning people that are not a part of this fucking group. You know that, right?
Collateral damage.
Okay, how much? Okay, well, hold on. How much money did you make today on the show?
He even offered to make the chat members only, meaning people would have to pay $10 just to say something, which would limit the trolling. But even that wasn't enough to satisfy Wings of Redemption. It became painfully clear that no amount of compromise would ever be good enough. At this point, the drama was becoming very boring very fast. The endless circle of whining, emotional manipulation, and attempts to control the narrative was exhausting. Still, they somehow managed to work something out, at least temporarily, to keep Wings on the show. It's worth pointing out that this wasn't even the last time someone on this panel would threaten to leave the podcast, far from it. Despite that, Lolcow Live continued with its regular programming, and believe it or not, Wings would soon take center stage again, but this time for a surprisingly positive reason. In the 24th episode, the hosts brought on Wings 007, one of the most popular troll channels dedicated to Wings of Redemption. This guy had built his entire online identity around mocking the irrelevant streamer, so naturally there was a lot of tension around the idea of giving him a platform. At first, Wings of Redemption was completely against it, since he didn't want to give someone who had spent years obsessively trolling him the time of day. But eventually he agreed to it, and in hindsight it turned out to be one of the best decisions he could have made.
Listen to what I'm saying. Your whole online persona, all the content you make is surrounded around Wings. Isn't that a little strange?
I don't really know. I mean, sure, if you want to call me a degenerate, strange, sure, I'll take that. Sure, it's a bit strange, but I think what's a bit more strange is people defending Wings when he makes claims that, yeah, I've watched this, I've watched that.
There has been huge documentaries on Wings of Redemption. Huge. Big content creators cover it. I've never seen one of them come out and label Wings as a predator. I see you guys and the detractors that do Wings content all the time.
So many clips. There's just so many god clips. Wings, let me ask you.
Goofy ball, dumb ball.
Have you ever Kelly?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, me and her actually trying to have a kid right now.
The resulting debate was surprising to say the least, not just because Wings came out looking like he was more reasonable, but also because 007 exposed himself as a completely unhinged person. This guy is a grown man, a father no less, yet he spends a disturbing amount of time stalking and obsessing over a morbidly obese internet lolcow.
I'm done. I kicked his ass. Listen.
In the context of that,
I'm done.
There's also a rumor that's worth addressing. Many people in the Lolcow Live community believe that 007 was involved in a street racing incident in which he crashed his car with his young son in the back seat. As a result, his son was reportedly hospitalized. This story was mostly pushed by users on the Lolcow Live subreddit, and it originated from a now deleted video that, luckily, I managed to find archived.
Completely ripped off, manhandled, ripped off.
The video shows 007 standing next to his wrecked car, along with a few screenshots of messages supposedly explaining the situation. However, based on everything I've seen, there's really no solid proof this event actually happened. Just think about it, this one video is the only source for this claim. The shown screenshots could easily be faked, and while it's clear that his car was indeed totaled, nothing in the footage confirms the rest of the story, especially the part about the injured child. Without concrete evidence, I believe this is just a baseless rumor. Still, it is important to mention since it is part of the larger lore surrounding this bizarre saga. Regardless of whether that rumor is true or not, what's undeniable is that 007 came off looking completely obsessed and unstable. By the time stream ended, Wings actually came out looking like the good guy. That's how bad this detractor was. So this was definitely a W for Wings of Redemption. Now it's time to shift our attention to Boogie2988, because apparently he decided that Wings had been the punching bag for long enough, and it was high time he reclaimed that title for himself.
Listen to me. You have the opportunity to use this time and this effort to take down predators that did this kind of shit. Other kids.
The sheer amount of chaos Boogie managed to create around this period is beyond comical. Not so long ago, he decided it would be a great idea to experiment with magic mushrooms in an attempt to heal his long-standing mental health issues. Guiding him through this spiritual journey was a self-proclaimed Native American shaman named Flaming Star. And as ridiculous as that already sounds, the story only goes downhill from here. The mushroom trip was, according to Boogie, a deeply profound and life-changing experience. He was so moved by it that he uploaded a video to his YouTube channel reflecting on his personal growth and behavior.
Truly and authentically, let me tell you that I love you.
However, let's be clear, the video was an absolute embarrassment. It was so bad that he ended up deleting it shortly afterward. Following this psychedelic experience, Boogie and Flaming Star actually developed an unusually close relationship. Boogie even invited him over to his home multiple times. Unfortunately, this spiritual guide turned out to be less of a wise mystic and more of a completely unstable man with wildly unpredictable and dangerous behavior. Firstly, we need to get some backstory. One of Boogie's most prized possessions is his Magic the Gathering card collection. He's never been totally consistent about its value, sometimes claiming it's worth $50,000, other times saying it's closer to $100,000, but regardless of the number, it was clearly worth a lot. At one point, desperate to improve his financial situation, he decided to sell the collection. That's when Flaming Star offered to buy all of it for $100,000. Somehow, Boogie agreed, and in one of the most absurd twists in this already unhinged story, they drafted a hilariously childish contract that Flaming Star literally signed using his own blood.
Wait, you did a contract with Boogie in blood?
Yes.
An actual blood?
I'm an Indian. Yes. It's a blood sworn oath.
As you can see, this room is full of mature and well-adjusted individuals. Predictably, the situation fell apart not long after. Their friendship came to a screeching halt when this Native American shaman allegedly threw Boogie's 15-year-old dog to the floor, which sent the Michelin Man into a full-blown meltdown.
But on this third day, he grabs Sammy up by the neck, and Sammy's got arthritis in his back and his legs, and he's in a lot of pain, and he takes pain pills every day now. I lost my shit. I'm like, you mother, keep your hands off my loved ones. I can't believe you did
Were
this.
you on drugs at this point?
No, of course not.
Things escalated further when Flaming Star stole the already mentioned Magic the Gathering collection, which again was supposedly worth a lot of money. In a panic, Boogie called on his friend Glenn to retrieve the stolen cards, and somehow he actually managed to recover them. You are probably wondering, why am I bringing all of this up? That is because Flaming Star was a reoccurring topic on Lolcow Live as this madness continued to unfold. And what's more, the story didn't end here. When Glenn returned the card collection to its rightful owner, the supposed Native American shaman completely lost his shit. First, he tried to get help from the Fayetteville police, who apparently refused to intervene. In response, he went online and had a complete breakdown, accusing Fayetteville of choosing war for not siding with him. This man then proceeded to vandalize Boogie's home and even damaged his roommate's car in a fit of rage. Not wanting a good thing to go to waste, Keemstar decided to jump into this circus. He paid Flaming Star $50 to appear on Lolcow Live, and the interview that followed confirmed what everyone had already suspected. This guy was absolutely out of his mind.
Basically, you're about to die, and they give you wax, like weed wax.
Yeah. In 60 days, not only did I talk again, but they're wondering if I'd already beat the cancer. And I said, no, I said I gotta take the mushrooms next. And they said, what?
He admitted to having been in prison, shared bizarre beliefs that sound like they were pulled straight out of a conspiracy subreddit, and generally behaved exactly like you'd expect from someone who guides people through mushroom trips in the woods for a living. Even other hosts were left wondering, why was Boogie ever involved with this guy in the first place? Looking at this from a logical standpoint, Flaming Star drove an old, beat-up clunker of a car, and yet Somehow, Boogie truly believed he had $100,000 just laying around to buy a trading card collection. This entire saga was one of the most bizarre, surreal storylines ever discussed on Lolcow Live. Between blood contracts, psychedelic meltdowns, stolen card collections, and vandalism, it was a full-blown internet fever dream. From that point forward, Lolcow Live entered what could be best described as its first dark age, a stretch of more than 3 months where the content completely bottomed out. The podcast devolved into a dull, repetitive mess. Episodes featuring just the regular hosts, Wings, Boogie, and Tommy C, consisted mostly of them rambling about random news stories or whatever topic happened to cross their minds. Occasionally, they would bring on guests, including controversial internet personalities like Shoe Nice and even Cyrax.
And I was, then about, I don't know, 6 months into us talking, I started rekindling it with Kelly. And it was so sparse.
There were some entertaining episodes, but the overall show became painfully boring, and the main reason was simple: Boogie and Wings are not interesting people. Worse yet, they continuously try to position themselves as moral authorities, offering commentary on everything from internet behavior to serious allegations, despite having absolutely zero credibility themselves. Keemstar would occasionally drop in, usually with the sole intention of spicing things up, and by spicing things up, I mean manufacturing drama in the most cringe-worthy ways possible. In one episode, for instance, he confronted Boogie over a Reddit post made by a throwaway account.
Okay, so guys, we got to go over these Boogie allegations. This is insane. My experience with Boogie 2988. Our conversation lasted about a month, and for the most part, it was casual and enjoyable. However, towards the end, Steven, aka Boogie, asked me for something that made me feel uncomfortable. The woman says, "Boogie, are you flirting with me?" You respond, "Maybe." Me and you, "No."
The post in question claimed that Boogie had sent inappropriate messages to someone online. Everything about it was clearly fake and no one was buying it, but Keemstar lashed onto it anyway, trying to stretch it into a full-blown scandal.
I like your socks. I bet they're comfy. God, I bet your feet smell nice. Can you take your socks off, beautiful? I would like to lick them.
And then there was another situation with Flaming Star, who allegedly threw a brick through Boogie's window immediately after he was released from jail. Boogie was so terrified of this incident that he sent his girlfriend to stay with her parents for a few days. Like always, Keemstar tried to spin this story into a narrative where Des had actually left Boogie and even implied that Boogie was thinking of ending himself.
A lot of rumors going around that Boogie is going to off himself.
It was ridiculous, but also completely on brand for how desperate the show had become. Behind the scenes, things weren't any better. Keemstar fired the show's editor, the same one I already mentioned before, after discovering he'd been shit-talking the podcast.
Felt like this could have been such a good show.
Yeah, you felt like it should have been a good show without
Dude,
fucking
why did you not read your Grace Thorpe post? Why did you delete that from the docket?
Because I already responded to it on the show before, but you cut it out of the edit. You don't fucking talk and disrespect the show this way. You did a fucking horrible job. You're over here saying
What are you
shit like,
talking about?
oh,
Keemstar,
they're trying
you
to
have
do
one
forced
job.
drama. What is the
Keemstar.
forced drama?
Keemstar, you
What is
have
the
one
forced
job.
drama?
You need to relax.
Official tweet on Lolcow Live. Connor has been fired. Like, you're fired.
No, you
No,
need to.
you are.
It's not. You're not the boss. Tommy's the boss. If he wants to fire me for talking shit to you, then he can.
The two had a heated argument over Discord, which ended in Keem pulling the plug. This didn't sit well with Tommy C, since Keemstar never had trouble attacking the hosts or any of the guests that came on the show, but when he gets some heat, he then immediately fires people.
Every stream just fire Connor, fire Connor, fire Connor. So it's like,
well, you're goofing on him. You're goofing on him. Look at him. You start goofing on me. You'll do the same thing.
so what I'm
just
saying,
being loud.
What I'm like, the guy literally had a ego, bro. That was getting completely out of control.
You heard that right. He said that one of the reasons the editor was fired was because he had an ego. The irony is nothing short of staggering. While we are on the subject, the main ringleader also threatened to quit the show multiple times because he was frustrated that people kept accusing him of faking drama and calling the podcast dead.
But I keep on hearing from the Wings and the Boogies and everyone else that this show is fucking dead. This is one of the most successful fucking shows on all of you. It is.
And let's not forget the shameless clickbait titles, which by this point had reached new lows in desperation. Despite all of this mayhem, the viewership numbers remained surprisingly strong. For a show that was widely hated and openly mocked across social media and Reddit, Lolcow Live was still managing to pull in between 4,000 and 5,000 live viewers per episode, but those numbers were also on a steep decline. The primary reason why the podcast was still relevant, in my opinion, is because of Boogie 2988. This is something you need to understand. A few things unite the internet, quite like collective contempt for this man. During this period, hating on Boogie was the fuel that kept this circus going. When it comes to controversial online personalities, few are more repulsive than him. For nearly a decade, this buffoon masterfully manipulated the entire platform by portraying himself as a good guy, a sympathetic, misunderstood person who has been dealt a bad hand at life. But that mask has long since slipped, and what's left is a man completely unwilling to take any accountability for his life. And now, on Lolcow Live, that fact has never been more clear. Many of the streams from this period follow a similar pattern. The main personal issues Boogie consistently brings up are either his weight or his finances. Yet, when pressed, he refuses to take even the basic steps to address either. He doesn't want to get a job because of his morbid obesity, while simultaneously not making any real effort to change that condition. This man is the human embodiment of the sin of sloth, a bloated, unapologetic slob whose problems are always somebody else's fault. People actually started making fun of the fact that Keemstar consistently urged him to try mowing his own lawn and to film it for the channel. Every time, instead of accepting this absolutely basic suggestion, Boogie would spiral into a defensive rant.
You're gonna mow the lawn. It's time to grow up. It's time to grow
Disabled.
up.
I have a blood pressure of 180/90. You want me on the front
time to
lawn
grow
in the
up
summer
and be
pushing
a
a
fucking
lawnmower?
man.
I'm disabled. My back
Hey,
doesn't
you gotta
work.
be quiet when you do this, Boogie. You'll up the reading.
My back's not gonna heal no matter how much I walk, you lunatic.
Ready?
Phone call.
You want this motherfucker out in the 100-degree weather? You want somebody with 185 over 120 blood pressure mowing their lawn in 100 degrees? Yeah, sounds like a great plan.
Occasionally, he would even bring out a blood pressure monitor to prove he was too sick to do everyday chores. Keep in mind, this is the same man who will fill his face with tacos and guzzle Mountain Dew on live streams and then make fun of anyone who dares to call out the contradiction.
My fucking tacos in chat, you, okay? All right, number one, y'all want me on a diet. I'm on a diet, okay? My plan is to eat whatever the fuck I want till I die and lose it all at once. Go fuck yourselves.
All right. It's not that he can't do things, it's that he won't. He refuses to work, refuses to improve, and always comes up with endless excuses to avoid doing anything productive. When people criticize him for begging his audience for money, he spirals into self-pity, acting as though he's been persecuted for simply asking for help.
We're gonna have fucking Charlie and Mudahar and everybody else shitting down my fucking throat for daring not wanting to fucking die and asking the people I entertained for 17 fucking years to help
Calm
me.
down, Boogie. Calm down.
No, Boogie. You are being criticized because you burned through all the goodwill anyone ever had for you and you still think you are entitled to more. One of the most pathetic displays of this behavior came during a live stream where Keemstar offered to pay for 2 doctor appointments and Boogie, instead of expressing gratitude, complained that he wasn't being given even more money.
Go make an appointment with the specialist tomorrow and I'll pay for it. All right?
That I will fucking do.
Which one? Pick. Do you want me to see the fucking blood specials or do you want me to see the fucking heart doctor?
I want you to see both, and I'm going to pay for one visit for both. All right? This is
Do you
not.
remember a month ago? Do you remember a month ago? I begged you to help me get on Zimbound because they think weight loss could drastically improve this, and there's a lot of other benefits. It's $1,500 a month. I begged you.
He desperately wanted Keemstar to cover medication for weight loss, something he saw as yet another shortcut. Because that's the only way he's ever willing to improve, if it's something that doesn't require actual effort. It was only after constant nagging and eventually a $500 donation from the audience that Boogie finally agreed to film himself mowing a tiny patch of his lawn. The resulting video was nothing short of humiliating. Any reasonable person would have seen it as a clear wake-up call, a moment that showed they had hit rock bottom. But not for this aspiring athlete. This might surprise you, but both Boogie and Wings of Redemption underwent gastric bypass surgery, which is a medical procedure that alters the stomach in the hopes of causing weight loss. That is absurd, because you wouldn't know it just by looking at these prime human specimens. Through sheer lack of restraint, they both stretched their stomachs back out, undoing whatever advantage the surgery has given them. Now, Boogie wants another medication to fix what he can't do on his own, again looking for a magic solution instead of doing the hard work. He even lost a weight loss competition to Wings of all people, and naturally, when asked why, the excuses were already prepared.
You and Wings had a weight challenge. You gained weight, right? Wings lost it.
I started testosterone again because my heart is weak. So we needed to get back on testosterone so that my heart could strengthen up in the hopes I could pump my fucking blood.
If you go down to 2,000 calories a day like a normal person, you'd lose weight.
Yes, Keemstar, if I could overcome my food addiction, my lifelong food addiction, you're right. A lot of my problems would be fucking solved.
Food is
Why
expensive.
do you think I'm trying to get the fucking medication?
There is a path to weight loss that requires no surgery or expensive medications. It's called discipline, something that Boogie doesn't even know the definition of. In the end, why would it matter? Other people will just do the work for him anyway. Believe it or not, this slob was extremely enthusiastic about the idea of his girlfriend launching an OnlyFans account supposedly just for cosplay. Yes, a nearly 50-year-old man encouraging his 20-something-year-old partner to create adult content for money. This is exactly the kind of thing people point out when describing the disturbing dynamic in this relationship. The fact that he sees nothing wrong with it is mind-boggling. Keep in mind, Boogie even launched his own OnlyFans account, hoping there might be a market for something like that. It just shows how completely delusional he can be in pursuit of money. Over these 3 months of stagnation for Lolcow Live, this was the kind of behavior we were subjected to. And to be honest, it wasn't even surprising. Boogie had been acting this way long before Lolcow, and he'll likely continue long after. He is a man defined by excuses, self-pity, and learned helplessness. And the tragic part is, he still genuinely believes he is the victim.
I saw on the subreddit people saying I'm faking cancer. Look, man, I may be a piece of shit. I'm not that kind of piece of shit that I spent the last year lying about cancer.
People really said that? Man, that's awful. Watching all of this play out, I was stunned by how good Wings of Redemption looked in comparison. Sure, Wings has said and done his fair share of stupid shit, but next to Boogie, he practically looks like a saint. That's the level of disorder we're dealing with. But now, as we arrive at June of 2024, we've hit a turning point, the part of the video you've all been waiting for. Everything I've said so far was merely the prologue to the scandal that would soon engulf the entire platform.
Anywhere, a fatty is a community for like-minded individuals that have broken free from the matrix. True happiness comes from a goldfish, from the same woman a couple of nights a month, and the occasional meme coin.
On June 27, 2024, Boogie promoted a new cryptocurrency project called Fairycoin, launching it with a now deleted video that can only be described as utterly deranged. In the clip, Boogie is seen shirtless, bizarrely trying to channel Andrew Tate's alpha male persona while his scantily clad girlfriend hovers awkwardly beside him. Even if you watched this footage without the context, you'd immediately get the sense that something deeply fucked up was going on. Unsurprisingly, this entire business adventure turned out to be nothing but a textbook example of a pump and dump scam. By the very next day, June 28th, the coin had plummeted by nearly 90% in value. Just 24 hours after Boogie's cringe-inducing sales pitch, the rug had already been pulled, and investors were left with worthless digital scraps. To put it in perspective, for a measly $10,000 paycheck, Boogie willingly participated in scamming his dwindling fanbase and the few loyal viewers he still had. He sold out for what amounts to a cheap used car, further proving that there's no floor too low for him to sink beneath. Naturally, the backlash was swift and brutal. Prominent YouTubers and internet personalities tore into Boogie with justified fury. The criticism was so widespread that he was once again thrust into the spotlight. In response, Boogie did what he always does when in trouble: he played the victim. He posted a shameless tweet trying to downplay his involvement and deflect responsibility. First, he claimed ignorance, saying he didn't understand the potential consequences of promoting a shady crypto coin. When that excuse fell apart under even minimal scrutiny, he pivoted to his go-to deflection tactic, citing his medical bills and even invoking his cancer to justify his actions. Yes, he literally tried to use his cancer diagnosis as a shield for participating in a scam. Calling this behavior disgusting is actually being too polite. Over at Lolcow Live, the crew had already discussed the crypto debacle on one of their streams. Things escalated further on July 4th when both Boogie and Wings of Redemption showed up at Keemstar's house to celebrate Independence Day. Also present at this gathering was Murahar, who, unlike the rest of the party, had zero patience for Boogie's bullshit.
You wanted to scam the audience and make money, that's it.
Where's the scam? I told you not to buy it. The scam would be to tell you, but hey, I know a scam. I've seen you promote Raid Shadow Legends.
When did I promote Raid Shadow Legends? Now, out of all the thousands of videos, find any Raid Shadow Legends promotion.
I don't watch your content anymore. I watched it in 5 years.
One of my most popular videos is how I rejected a bag from Raid Shadow Legends.
Okay, that's awesome.
Muta confronted him directly over the crypto scam, and since Boogie could no longer convincingly play the victim, he went on the offensive, attempting to debunk Murahar despite clearly knowing little to nothing about him. Another prominent figure who didn't hold back in criticizing Boogie for this shameless scam was CoffeeZilla, a YouTuber renowned for his investigations into frauds, particularly in the world of cryptocurrency and influencer grifts. He has built a massive following by exposing financial deception, and when it comes to Boogie's sketchy crypto stunt, he didn't pull any punches. In a direct confrontation, CoffeeZilla grilled Boogie on his involvement with Fairycoin, refusing to let him wiggle out of accountability. Boogie, true to form, fell back on his most familiar tactic: emotional manipulation.
I'm literally just fighting for my life over here, and a lot of that involves staying home, spending my money where it needs to be spent, and trying to just not stress myself out to make my polycythemia vera anywhere.
You know why they tell you to do it for a week, right? That's how much time they need to get out of the coin. They're going to slowly drain the coin as people buy in. They're going to use whatever's worth of your name to dump on your fans. You know that.
Well, if you're telling me that, I believe you.
He attempted to sway CoffeeZilla, and the audience for that matter, by painting himself as a desperate man just trying to survive, but, as you can guess, literally no one was buying it. Then came the moment that would change everything. Near the end of the interview, Boogie delivered a single, seemingly throwaway sentence that, in hindsight, would become the first domino in a much larger collapse.
I hope you get better with your sickness, and
Yeah, it's cancer, man. People don't generally get better.
That one sentence that you just heard would set off a chain reaction that will eventually expose Boogie in a scandal even more disturbing than his crypto grift. Compared to what comes next, the Fedicoin fiasco looked like a harmless Sunday prank.
What an unbelievable fucking, what an actual fucking piece of shit.
Elsewhere, that same video was being watched by Destiny, a well-known online streamer and political commentator with a reputation for thorough research and harsh debates. And that one sentence from Boogie would really annoy Destiny.
And
yeah, it's cancer, man. People don't generally get better. But I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
He doesn't have cancer. That's bullshit. He's lying about it. 1 billion% he's lying about having cancer too. Absolutely. Unless he's linked medical documents 100% showing it. Why would you say that if you had cancer? It's cancer. You don't get better from it. That's so absolutely not fucking true. Depends on the type of cancer. Depends on the condition of the patient. Depends on the healthcare available to you. Depends on well, now hold on. Third one is stupid. Depends on the type of cancer. Depends on the status of the patient, and it depends on how far the cancer has progressed.
He immediately began digging into Boogie's story, especially his statements about having cancer. What Destiny discovered would create a shitstorm of massive proportions. Through his research, he uncovered major inconsistencies in Boogie's public claims about his supposed cancer diagnosis. Let's start from the beginning. On November 11th, 2022, Boogie uploaded a video titled "I have a rare form of cancer," in which he revealed to his audience that he had been diagnosed with polycythemia vera, a rare incurable blood cancer. Over the following months, he cited this cancer and its supposed treatment multiple times across different platforms. At first glance, many took his words at face value, but as more details emerged, it became increasingly obvious that something didn't add up. When Destiny took a closer look, virtually none of Boogie's claims about his symptoms, causes, or treatments aligned with polycythemia vera. One of the most obvious red flags was Boogie's claim that his cancer was caused, at least in part, by testosterone therapy. This was a big lie, as polycythemia vera is a genetic disorder almost always linked to a mutation in the JAK2 gene, not something triggered by external hormone treatments. Furthermore, his descriptions of treatment didn't match any recognized protocol for this type of cancer. He made vague references to lifestyle changes and general fatigue, but never mentioned the standard procedures I listed here. In fact, his descriptions more closely resembled the management of secondary polycythemia, a non-cancerous condition often caused by external factors like sleep apnea, low oxygen levels, or, you guessed it, testosterone use.
Most common causes of secondary polycythemia include obstructive sleep apnea, obesity, hypoventilation syndrome, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Other causes include testosterone replacement therapy, okay, and heavy cigarette smoking. Okay, holy shit, he's hit all the fucking darts on all the boards.
And that's where the pieces for Destiny began to fall into place. What Boogie had almost certainly been diagnosed with was secondary polycythemia, a reversible, non-malignant condition that, while not insignificant, is not cancer in any medical or technical sense. The conclusion was obvious. This guy lied about his diagnosis for almost 2 years and frequently used it as both a shield against criticism and a source of sympathy. Back over at Lolcow Live, the crew fired up what was supposed to be a regular stream, but what followed was a 4-hour trainwreck of biblical proportions. Things began relatively calmly, the usual banter, a few minor rants, and then the topic turned to Keemstar being pissed off at Boogie. You might wonder why, and that is because during Boogie's call with CoffeeZilla, he said he wasn't getting paid to be on the podcast, which was another total lie and an obvious attempt to dodge accountability. When it comes to our guy, it is business as usual. But then came the big twist.
And as you're on the way here, I get a call from CoffeeZilla where you told him you don't get paid for this show.
No, I told him that No, here's what I told him, Keem, and you know this. I told him I literally showed him in that phone call the receipt where you paid me on the 31st of the previous month.
Keemstar hopped into the stream and he didn't come alone. He brought a thermonuclear weapon with him by the name of Destiny. The stage was set, and what followed could only be described as a total disaster.
I'm bringing a buddy onto the show. You are not gonna fucking like this.
Yeah, I didn't think I would.
How you guys doing tonight? What's going on?
Yeah, how's it going? We can see you. You guys look fantastic.
What kind of guest is this?
Turn it on.
I mean, some of you.
Don't be so friendly. Boogie 2488. You are being confronted tonight.
Go
I
ahead.
am 99% sure that you are faking.
No, don't move.
You are faking your cancer diagnosis, Boogie.
Okay, let's hear that.
Let's hear that.
Did the doctor ever tell you, or did he ever say the word cancer?
He said polycythemia vera, which is a form of cancer, as he explained it to me. And no, it is not secondary polycythemia, which is Nicholas Diorio's explanation for this bullshit.
So I think it is secondary polycythemia. Well, if he ordered a bone marrow biopsy to confirm it, it would be weird that you told us that you already had a diagnosis and a confirmation.
Because the markers are in my blood. The hormone markers are in my blood, Destiny.
Correct. But you said that you'd received the diagnosis, but now you just told me that you got a bone marrow biopsy.
It's a diagnosis, and now we're the hormone markers in my blood, and it all spelled pretty definitively that I have this. And so he wanted to get a bone marrow biopsy, but it is intrusive and expensive, so they decided to forego it.
So I mean, I can explain everything, right? So Boogie has a condition called polycythemia, which means there's an elevation.
Polycythemia vera.
Let him talk, you fat. I want to hear the guy that actually knows something.
Polycythemia vera.
Destiny, go ahead.
He knows more about my fucking
Yes, yes, I guarantee. Well, he's
go right the fuck ahead.
Taking testosterone will not cause you to develop a cancer. That doesn't, not for this particular cancer, it won't. It will cause you to develop secondary polycythemia. 2 years ago, you said that you had a cancer diagnosis, but now you just said now they're doing a biopsy to check for cancer.
Confirmation.
Is this house MD? Are we treating a blood cancer without actually confirming it yet? For 2 years, you've been having a cancer treatment without confirming there's actually cancer there?
Destiny pretty much obliterated Boogie when discussing his so-called cancer diagnosis. The 400-pound Lolcow tried to hold his ground, but his story was unraveling faster than a dollar store sweater. Every argument he threw out fell apart under even the slightest scrutiny. The peak moment was when Destiny simply said what everyone else had already been thinking. If Boogie is telling the truth, all he has to do is show his medical records. That's it. That's all it would have taken. And Boogie's response was something you have to hear to believe.
If there was,
What are your medical papers, dude?
I'm never showing any of these motherfuckers my medical papers. Go f yourself. I said that 2 years ago, and I'm staying by it now. Destiny, Jackson, Clark, Keemstar, you can see it when I fucking die. It's my fucking goddamn medical record. I've given you every goddamn phone call. I've given you every fucking text. I've given you. It's never made a single goddamn thing better. I'm not gonna fucking do it.
You could easily end this right now by just showing
I would rather
these
you motherfuckers. I would rather you motherfuckers continue to LARP. I would rather you motherfuckers continue to LARP.
It was at that moment the illusion was fully shattered. Boogie outright lied about having cancer, and now the entire internet was watching him squirm, and squirm he did. Throughout the stream, even after Destiny left, he went into full meltdown mode, spasming, deflecting, yelling, sobbing, and repeating the same shaky excuses over and over.
It's over, Boogie. This is the worst.
Yeah, I know.
You doing the fatty coin isn't the worst. This is bad.
Boogie,
you have to
Boogie, my wife has cancer.
I know. Tweet her medical records real quick.
Do you want me to go? You want me to wake her up and see if she can get her medical records faster than you?
No, I would rather she.
He even told some obvious lies, like that his girlfriend was in the room when the doctor gave him his diagnosis, which is impossible since they weren't even dating yet when that supposedly happened. He later tried to correct himself, saying she was in the room but at a different appointment, way after the original diagnosis. Considering how often this guy lies to cover his ass, it's easy to believe this was yet another one. It was a complete shitstorm. Huge names began pulling into the stream just to participate in the show. Murahar, Nicholas Diorio, and even Mr. Meraker, a guy who actually has cancer and doesn't exploit it for clout.
And it's saying that that Boogie's faking his cancer.
Yep, that seems to be the narrative.
Okay, so why don't you walk me through why Destiny believes you're faking the cancer?
He doesn't know the difference between polycythemia vera and secondary polycythemia, and he thinks that I've gotten confused between the two, and that somehow I'm so stupid as to. I think that's the. Am I missing something there?
You're missing a big portion.
And just to twist the knife deeper, Destiny and other creators that were following this charade offered Boogie upwards of $50,000 to simply show any kind of medical documentation confirming his claims. And what did Boogie do?
If Boogie can confirm, that he has polycythemia vera, and he actually has like a doctor confirmation of the blood cancer, I'll throw $5,000 towards his medical treatment. I'll make that personal pledge right now.
Hey, you need the money.
You're not seeing my medical records for 20, not for 50. You're not seeing my medical records.
$5,000.
This is the one thing I'm keeping to myself. This is the one thing I'm keeping to myself.
Let's recap. This is a man who shamelessly begged his fans for money, started an OnlyFans, tried to pimp out his girlfriend for cosplay content, joined a podcast called Lolcow Live, and scammed his fans for a measly $10,000 paycheck. And now he wants people to believe he suddenly draws the line at revealing his private medical records. You have to understand, he was the one who made his cancer public the moment he uploaded that video. He also referenced it in countless streams and used it as an emotional defense in nearly every serious conversation. Boogie made it everyone's business and then cried about privacy the moment someone asked for proof. Absolutely no one was buying this story, and the only person who believed it was Boogie himself, and maybe his inner circle of enablers, including his mentally underdeveloped brother and his disgusting girlfriend, both of whom lied shamelessly about this very obvious scam.
I can confirm that they said those words, that he had
No,
polycythemia.
they've offered me You remember we talked about not sharing my medical records last night, that I wouldn't do it under any circumstance, right?
Des, I take back everything I said about you earlier. You and this oaf deserve each other. Even after being dragged for 4 hours straight, Boogie still insisted it was all true, still pretending to be the victim. The stream did eventually end, but the drama was far from over. This was only the beginning of the fallout still to come. The internet practically exploded, piling on Boogie with yet another brutal wave of negative attention. As you can imagine, Keemstar's joy was impossible to ignore. At that point, he was running a podcast that was on its deathbed. But now he had struck a goldmine of drama that would launch Lolcow Live into the spotlight for the remainder of that month, and Boogie once again became its most pathetic star. Even after the show, he continued to vigorously deny faking cancer on Twitter, but after some time, even he seemed to realize the jig was up. The next episode of Lolcow Live was probably one of the most anticipated streams on the entire platform. People were dying to see what the hell was going to happen next. Keemstar kicked off the show with his usual dramatic opening, giving a brief recap of the situation so far.
And I hit Boogie with a surprise. I hit him with Destiny, who had a theory that Boogie was faking cancer. Now, when I did that, just for context, so everyone understands, when I did that, I thought Boogie would just show the paperwork and that would be the end of it. I had no idea that Boogie was actually faking cancer.
The general consensus at that point was that Boogie had been diagnosed with secondary polycythemia. He then went home, googled it, saw the word cancer in some search results and decided to run with it as his new public identity. Whether that's truly what happened is hard to say, because we are dealing with a compulsive liar who constantly contradicts himself. In case you're wondering, yes, the man of the hour would join the stream not long after. Boogie showed up looking like a deflated balloon, and the awkwardness in the air was palpable. You could feel the tension bleeding through the screen.
Because when we get these tests done, I deserve to have it up my ass. I deserve to have it in my fucking brain. I deserve to have fucking cancer the way my dad did, the way Danny did, the way my friend Marie, like everybody. Everybody that's ever died of cancer, lost a loved one.
He finally admitted what everyone already knew, that he didn't actually have confirmed cancer, and now it was time to face the music. True to form, Boogie tried to turn his public flogging into a sympathy tour. As some kind of weird punishment, he mailed his YouTube play button to Keemstar. He was also now streaming from a new setup, stripped of all the trash and clutter he used to have in the background. It was all part of his new "look how pitiful I am" routine, a last-ditch attempt to fish for empathy.
I'm donating $1,000, basically, to St. Jude's. I'm pulling that trigger right now as we speak, and I'll send you a receipt. Well, I would like to ask that it's St. Jude's, and the reason I'd like to ask that it's St. Jude's is because they do two things that are very important. And I've raised money for St. Jude's many times before. What they do there is they treat children with cancer for entirely free. So if you have cancer and you appeal to St. Jude's, they will most likely treat your child's cancer for free. Tennessee, it's a wonderful charity. It's also a research hospital. So what they do is they try to beat cancer. So when you give money to St. Jude's, you're doing two things. Number one, you're saving a child's life. And number two, you are helping beat cancer.
He even pledged to donate $1,000 to St. Jude's Hospital, delivering the announcement with a melodramatic speech that absolutely no one believed was sincere. What followed was a predictable stream of half-assed excuses, crocodile tears, and an endless cycle of guilt-baiting.
The reality is, my doctor told me I have cancer. Well, we need to do this test if we want to fully confirm it, but it's pointless to do it because we're going to treat it anyway.
Telling you you had it, or he thinks that's what it is.
In my memory.
By this point, Boogie's playbook was so transparent it could be read from space. Then came the big question: what will happen to Boogie 2988 and his role on Lolcow Live? Faking cancer doesn't just make everyone look bad, it's a career-ending scandal in almost any normal setting. On the show's subreddit, users ran a poll asking whether he should be kicked off the podcast, and the majority wanted him gone. Keemstar understood that this is the most logical path, but there was a problem. He knew that Boogie, as despicable as he is, had become the show's most lucrative punching bag, and firing him meant killing off the golden goose. Still, during this livestream, Keem ran another audience poll, and again over 60% of the viewers wanted to kick Boogie off the show, and with the writing on the wall, Keem finally announced that he was fired.
You're fired. You have to be fired. You are fired.
But it didn't end there. Destiny returned to the stream, and once again he went scorched earth with zero mercy by exposing even more lies and inconsistencies. Please listen to this absolutely astonishing clip.
And this is very rude of me here. This doctor doesn't speak very good English. That's why I don't see him anymore.
Was it Dr. Gupta?
No, I don't think it was an Indian accent.
Wait, hold on. He doesn't speak good English. His English is so bad that you couldn't understand what he was telling you enough, but you could hear him enough to hear polycythemia vera and Google it.
I made him repeat it. It's not a nonsense.
Absolutely not what
I'm saying. I don't want to accidentally lie anymore. I'm just trying.
Wait, hold on. You didn't accidentally.
Wait, how do you accidentally lie?
No, stop. Hold on. You didn't accidentally lie before.
Guys, I accidentally lied about having cancer. Oopsie daisy. When Boogie realized that fake remorse and half-assed apologies weren't going to earn him any points with Destiny, or with the audience for that matter, he dropped the act entirely. He went back to being himself, hostile, bitter, defensive, and ready to argue with anyone who dared to call him out.
Horrible human being, okay? You're a horrible person.
Talk to yourself.
No, you're a bad person. You're a horrible, abusive,
fireman in a
manipulative person.
goddamn Trump office, okay?
You probably lie about almost everything. If we would have a long enough conversation, I could probably.
I'm not even fat. Look at me. I'm not even fat. Everything I say is a lie. Go ahead. I want to say, listening to you talk is like you are one of the nerds I would have thrown out of a Magic.
Can I get? Yeah, why are you repeating the same thing? Stop filibustering. Stop filibustering. You just said the same thing like 5 times.
Pay close attention, because this is who Stephen J. Williams really is. A vindictive, manipulative person who only pretends to feel sorry when there's no other way out. One of the most unintentionally hilarious moments came when Boogie claimed he was glad he didn't unalive himself in the past and said he was finally happy to be alive. Only to get so riled up by Destiny minutes later that he grabbed a knife on camera and threatened to harm himself.
Please do not do anything with that knife. No.
No, he wants me to. He told me to, right?
No.
Oh, this is what's pending the sandwich
right now.
Believe it or not, this is how the episode actually ended, and naturally everyone wanted to see more. You better believe Keemstar was ready to cash in, since he could still milk even more content from this Lolcow. The week that followed was turbulent to say the least, since it is now confirmed that this man was willing to lie about having cancer for personal gain. People started asking much bigger questions. For instance, how much of Boogie's life story is actually true? With the cancer claim now being exposed, attention quickly shifted to another deeply emotional cornerstone of his narrative, his repeated claims of sexual and physical abuse by his parents. For years, he had positioned this trauma as a defining part of his identity, but now, with the mask slipping, people started digging into these stories more seriously, and what they found was a sea of contradictions. One of the most damning pieces of evidence came in the form of a now viral image posted on the Boogie Truth subreddit. It was a collage of Boogie's own words, quotes pulled from different years and platforms, clearly contradicting each other on basic details about his alleged abuse. The post wasn't even new, it had been uploaded nearly 4 years ago, but thanks to the cancer scandal, it resurfaced and gained new traction. In fact, it became so popular that Keemstar wanted to address it in the next Lolcow live stream, and when Boogie found out, he completely lost his mind. He reportedly flew into such a rage and state of panic that Keemstar had to call in a welfare check because he genuinely thought that this guy might harm himself over the next public embarrassment. How much of this story is true, I'll leave up to you. But regardless, the next Lolcow live stream happened and it was a pure circus.
Piece of shit, but I get to put it all back on because I don't have the fucking money.
Let's
to pay
go.
for the goddamn medication.
Guys, he lost 24 pounds. 24 pounds.
I get to put it right back on.
Congratulations.
This time, Wings of Redemption also joined the panel, turning the chaos dial up to 11. Boogie initially refused to appear because he didn't want to confront the now widespread doubt surrounding his abuse story. But eventually he gave in and joined the stream, and almost immediately got grilled by the rest of the panel. Most notably, Mr. Merricker joined the show and tore into him without hesitation, confronting him with uncomfortable questions and inconsistencies.
So you're trying to say that one of the aspects of the abuse you suffered as a child was your mother gave you pizza?
No, she would give me no healthy alternatives and encourage me.
Honestly, it was hard to tell what the intended tone of the stream even was. One moment, Boogie was trying to deliver a tearful monologue about his abusive childhood, and the next, everyone else on the panel was openly making fun of him.
But she would grab my genitals and twist them, and grab my balls and twist them, and
Was there any reason that she keeps running already?
It is.
He would even put this cardboard box on his head and started goofing around, while his most profitable Lolcow was attempting to share more of his emotional backstories. It was beyond surreal. There was also this important moment when Keemstar suggested that if Boogie ever wanted to return to the show, he needed to tattoo the word liar on his face.
In order for you to come back on this show, I think that you should live stream on this show you going to a tattoo artist and getting a face tattoo of liar on your face. And I'm so serious.
So in case there was any confusion, yeah, that whole "you're fired" thing from the previous stream was total bullshit. This guy was never going anywhere. He is too valuable as a walking disaster. In fact, he is such a walking disaster that the stream in question became wildly popular thanks to his many meltdowns, including the one at the very end where he faked a mental breakdown, prompting his roommates to cut off the internet.
Any donation, 20 or more, that happened tonight, read it for the chat. This is part of the goddamn punishment.
Trying. Give me a minute. I'm in the middle of a severe panic attack, okay?
I told you I couldn't talk about this, man.
You can do this.
That's why I told you. No, I can't. I told you I couldn't talk about
Boogie,
this.
you knocked this out of the park.
I begged you not to make me talk about this on the show. I begged you.
You crushed it.
I begged you. I begged you. I begged you, Dan. I begged you.
You crushed it.
You
did very good tonight.
I fucking begged you.
You did. What's going on over there? You did fine. I think his roommate cut off the power. Oh no.
I kicked the roommate. Cut off the power.
In all fairness, he did donate $4,000 to charity after being pressured by other people on the panel, but unfortunately that was nearly all the money he had in his bank account, which I guess added to his famous temper tantrum. The episode that followed was met with considerable backlash, mainly because it perfectly encapsulated everything people can't stand about Lolcow Live: manufactured drama and a total lack of integrity. To start things off, Boogie called into the stream from a tattoo shop because, yes, he was actually going through with the absurd punishment of tattooing the word liar on his face. That wasn't a joke, he literally did it, or at least pretended to.
I have every major YouTuber and influencer reaching out to me via DM saying this is legendary, this is insane. Like,
this segment was treated like some kind of redemption arc, as if this manipulative, proven liar permanently branding himself was enough to absolve him of everything he'd done. It was simply desperate and frankly insulting to anyone who had been paying attention. To make matters worse, Keemstar rewarded him by bringing him back onto the show immediately afterward. Now there was no more doubt, that whole firing stunt was straight up fake. Speaking of fake, this supposed tattoo faded in less than a month. Whether it was semi-permanent ink or just a straight-up scam, one thing is certain: Boogie never meant to take this punishment for real. When I say you can't trust this show, this is exactly what I mean. The vast majority of it is a complete sham, sensationalism in its purest, most shameless form. From this point on, the crew made the decision to stop uploading edited episodes of the show. Instead, Lolcow Live would be streamed exclusively in its raw, unedited form. This was a really strange decision, especially given that they had an editor, but now it's unclear what his role was supposed to be. Nevertheless, this finally brings us to the end of the fake cancer arc, arguably the most controversial segment in the show's history. Yet, despite the backlash, it was also one of the most popular periods, with average live viewership hovering at around 22,000. But don't worry, even though this chapter came to a close, the fake cancer storyline wasn't going away anytime soon. It continued to be milked on the show for many months afterward, cementing its place as a recurring punchline in the Lolcow universe. The stream that followed the tattoo fiasco marked the end of July, and in many ways it was seen as Lolcow Live's return to its traditional programming in all the wrong ways.
Did you take that girl's virginity?
I mean, that's not for me.
He
to say.
did. He did. We figured that out on the show.
That's we guys continue to think that. And
no,
you're welcome to
Boogie,
think
you
that.
said
I'll
that
never
on the
confirm or
show.
deny that.
Boogie.
Once again, Keemstar announced that he was quitting the show after this episode because he had other projects to focus on, including his long-awaited revival of Drama Alert on YouTube, which at the time was still airing exclusively on Snapchat. This meant that the remaining hosts were now responsible for running the show from that point on. Other than that, this farewell stream just wasn't very good. At one moment, Keemstar began reading a Reddit post but gave up halfway through because I guess he lost interest.
Why are people, particular Keem, so gullible? If he was genuinely undergoing a I don't want to fucking read this shit. I don't fucking care. What do you think, Boogie?
Meanwhile, the rest of the panel awkwardly attempted to morally grandstand against DSP, who had been criticizing Lolcow Live at the time, but their efforts completely fell flat.
That's it. They don't want to make legit content. If they did, they'd make a legit show.
What is okay, hold on.
What
is legit content?
Don't forget, he's got this fucking show, the One Up podcast or something like that, where for an hour a day he sits and bitches about how much money he's making.
It's ironic that DSP Dark Side Phil was the one who came off as the more reasonable in comparison to these clowns. In hindsight, it's almost laughable how lucky he was not to participate in this disaster of a podcast, and let's be honest, having a guy who literally faked cancer try to call out someone else's morality is not just hypocritical, it's insulting. At this point, any subject of Lolcow Live's commentary is probably a better human being than Boogie, so hearing him lecture others is just embarrassing. On top of that, even his tattoo was already fading, something his co-hosts pointed out.
Why does it look so much lighter?
Because it's infected. My
Bro,
beard's growing through.
Did you get a fake tattoo?
No, you saw the needle going in and out of my face. How do you fake that?
Did you get one of those temporary ones that last like a week?
Things would somehow get even worse in the next episode, which featured only Boogie and Wings attempting to run the stream on their own. To this day, that stream is widely regarded as one of the worst in Lolcow Live's history. These two morons couldn't even manage the basic task of turning on a Discord call and speaking into a microphone without something going horribly wrong. From the beginning, the audio quality was atrocious. It sounded like they were broadcasting from the inside of a tin can.
Do you guys have audio in both? It says there's audio in both. This says there's fucking audio in both.
Here's the issue I have with shows that right now, right? This whole like going down a docket and listening to fucking memes, nobody gives a fuck about that, right? I don't want to watch a meme of Boogie play fucking drums and pretend that it's content.
A lot of people put in 40-hour work weeks, jobs they fucking
Dude,
hate. And I know
$2,000 a month is $24,000 a year, and once you take taxes out of that, which is going to be almost 30%, that's
where the fuck's your camera?
I don't know what happened to the camera.
It stayed that way for over an hour until Keemstar finally joined in to ask, "What are you guys doing?"
Dude, Boogie, you have to fix your mic. It's an OBS issue.
Well, it's going to require a reset.
Well, maybe fucking reset. I don't know. You're doing a whole show and nobody can hear what you're saying.
Okay, then I'll reset.
You don't understand how bad it is.
Then I'll reset.
The content itself was not much better. Boogie, in what can only be described as a failed Keemstar impression, spent the stream trying to mimic his voice, posture and aggressive style, constantly complaining and insulting people with zero charisma.
The last short uploaded on this channel was July 2nd. Make that make sense.
As you might imagine, fans were not impressed with the show's bizarre new direction, and they didn't hold back in letting everyone know. While watching this clown show unfold, you're probably wondering, where the hell is Tommy C in all of this? And well, there's a lot to unpack on that topic. Just before the whole cancer saga blew up, Tommy had taken a 3-week vacation with his family, stepping away from Lolcow Live entirely. But even after returning, he was still absent from the show. That is why, for several weeks, we only saw Boogie and Wings of Redemption fumbling through streams on their own. Unfortunately, Tommy would never return. On August 4th, just one day after that horrible episode, Keemstar officially fired him from the podcast. This decision cracked open an entirely new can of worms and raised some serious questions, particularly about the actual structure of the business behind Lolcow Live. Since day one, Keemstar had claimed that the show was split evenly 4 ways, 25% ownership between himself and each of the 3 hosts. But if that were really the case, why is Keem the only one with the power to fire people? He even calls himself the boss and always steers the direction of the entire production like he is the sole decision maker.
And Wings, you said that like Keem is like direct and like yells at people, and if you don't do what Keem says, you're worthless to him. Were you describing a boss? Like, that's because I'm the boss and this is your job. Go do your job. Oh, you're not doing your job? Well, then you're worthless to me. Like, that's how it works, Wings.
That's what I said.
At times, Tommy would speak openly about the behind-the-scenes details of the show on his personal streams, which gives us more insight into this thing. According to him, Keemstar owns 100% of the business, and all that talk about shared ownership was just something he said on camera to maintain an illusion of equality.
He doesn't want me to say that the whole thing is his project, his alone.
his management, and he pays. He is the boss. I think that Wings and Boogie, even though they probably don't know what shares are, they don't know what part ownership is, they actually believe this stuff, but they don't own anything. And they couldn't produce any paperwork to say otherwise. Keem owns this thing lock, stock, and barrel, and that's why I haven't been fired.
This wasn't just speculation, it became more obvious when, near the end of July, Keemstar tried to get all of the hosts to sign NDAs. Naturally, Boogie and Wings signed it without hesitation, because after all, they're desperate for money and clout, but Tommy refused. Not only that, he would leak the NDA publicly on his Twitter, thinking it was absurd and overreaching. So, by the end of July, tensions were already boiling between him and the rest of the crew. Combine that with the fact that Keem had apparently been looking for an excuse to get rid of him for a while, and Tommy's firing doesn't seem so surprising in hindsight. 2 days later, on August 6th, the remaining crew went live to address the elephant in the room. Keemstar was, surprise surprise, suddenly back on the show, despite being absent for only one episode and claiming he had to quit to focus on rebuilding Drama Alert. That statement turned out to be just as hollow as the rest of the show's integrity. But let's be honest, Boogie and Wings running this podcast alone was never going to work. These guys can't even operate a microphone properly without needing help. The response from the fans to Tommy getting fired was massive, and rightfully so. He was, by far, the most well-liked and respected personality on the show, and his removal felt not only unjustified but deeply hypocritical. Keemstar desperately wanted for people not to see him as the villain in this situation. At first, he tried to spin the story by saying that Tommy had quit the show of his own accord, something that was soon proven to be false. Once that excuse didn't hold up, Keem then shifted gears, insisting that the firing was absolutely necessary. He accused Tommy of trying to sabotage the show, and he would also constantly say that he was quote-unquote difficult to work with.
So we can't even have meetings with Tommy anymore. So it makes, like, the guy's literally impossible to work with, and he's been being impossible to work with.
I find that really funny, considering that he was still employing Wings of Redemption, a guy who had threatened to quit the podcast multiple times and had to be begged to stay. And let's not forget Boogie, the guy who faked cancer and someone who constantly manipulates people in nearly every episode. So let's be real, if difficult to work with is a fireable offense, Tommy should have been the last person to go. This wasn't about professionalism, it was about control. On the same stream where Keemstar tried to justify firing Tommy, he also attempted to put a bandage on the situation by launching live tryouts for the new third host.
Yeah, I'm a host of Matters Now, a YouTube channel. I moderate debates. I host panels and stuff like that.
Are
I
you
schedule debates.
Are you a mod in like a Discord or a Reddit mod or anything like that?
Not Reddit. I used to be an admin for Modern Day Debates.
Various personalities were brought in to test the waters, one of them being our old friend Only Use Me Blade, a chronic alcoholic we talked about who was at the time permanently banned from YouTube. That alone made him ineligible to even appear on the show. Unsurprisingly, this whole search led absolutely nowhere, and Keemstar just quietly slid back into the role of a third host himself. He even said that this return would only last for a month, which was another claim that turned out to be false, because someone had to steer this Lolcow ship and he couldn't resist being the ringmaster of the circus. And you better believe that he had big plans for where the content would go next. By this point it was obvious to everyone that Boogie's liar face tattoo was fake. It had nearly vanished entirely within a few weeks.
So it's faded for sure. But it's fucking real.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. This will be here.
Dude, I think it's even worse now. Like,
that's
dude,
fake.
It is because of that Keem doubled down on the Boogie humiliation arc. The new plan was to turn Boogie, again, into a full-time punching bag, dragging him through one public punishment after another, milking him for every last drop of attention and outrage all the way into September. The first move was to tell Boogie he wouldn't be getting paid for the month of July, supposedly because faking cancer doesn't give you the right to profit from it. This immediately sent him into another rage spiral, one that also became very popular as he ranted on camera for nearly 10 straight minutes.
Are you even thinking about this? Why should you make money faking cancer? That's insane.
Dude, I can't be fucking homeless. You want me to be on the show? I have to be able to pay my fucking mortgage.
I know. Calm down.
Goddamn light bill.
Calm
I
down.
have to pay my
Okay,
bill.
calm down. What do you
I
think?
have to pay my fucking light bill.
What do you think this whole chat is thinking right now? All right. Oh, Boogie.
I don't give a
Oh,
fuck.
Boogie wants to profit off of faking cancer. Calm down. Calm down. Calm the fuck down. Calm down. Chill out.
Please take a look at this man. He's drenched in sweat and breathing like he just ran a marathon, all from a few minutes of screaming. How many more years does his body have before it just gives up? Then came the truly absurd punishments, like when he was made to pick up trash by the side of the road in 31 degrees Celsius heat, barely functioning while an entire audience was watching in real time.
He looks so defeated.
Dogs.
He actually looks better now than he did earlier.
Another time, Keem had Boogie sit in a public square while holding a sign that read "I faked cancer" while encouraging random bystanders to pelt him with water balloons. If there ever were a moment where the show turned into a digital dairy farm, it was now. Somehow, in all this chaos, DSP managed to slip back into the storyline. It all began when Keemstar called him a loser during one of the streams, which, unsurprisingly, prompted a reaction. What followed was a brief back and forth between the two, with DSP taking offense and firing back on his own platform. Keemstar then issued a public apology on Twitter, and DSP actually acknowledged it.
Dear Darkside Phil, DSP, I owe you an apology. I do. Last night, I was just being a hater, and worse than that, I was being hypocritical.
That cracked open the door that was previously thought to be closed. Keem expressed interest in having DSP appear on Lolcow Live, to which Darkside Phil responded by asking for $50,000, but in a strange counteroffer said Keem could appear on his podcast Level 1 for absolutely free. Amazingly, the Lolcow Live ringleader actually accepted, and what followed was a surprisingly civil conversation between the two. Obviously, this wasn't a major turning point, but it was definitely one of those bizarre side quests in this entire saga that's worth noting. Another thing worth noting is that from August to November, a large chunk of Lolcow Live's content was placed behind a paywall, which created some backlash from the community. Even Keemstar's reaction to DSP was initially locked to members only, before eventually being made public. As someone who didn't fork over the cash to become a channel member, I can only speculate about what these streams were about based on their titles. But honestly, it doesn't seem like we missed anything important. The publicly available content provides more than enough context about what was going on during this period. After the whirlwind that was the fake cancer arc, it became clear that the show's momentum had finally burned out. Viewership steadily dropped back down to its average of around 4,000 live viewers per stream, a clear sign that Lolcow Live was slipping into its second dark age. With the Boogie humiliation arc running out of steam, Keemstar needed a new target, and that spotlight turned to Wings of Redemption. Unfortunately for Keem, milking Wings didn't quite hit the same, at least not at first. The early attempts were downright pathetic, and if you've been following this story, you can probably guess why. Take for example when Keem wanted Wings to take part in a punishment similar to Boogie's infamous water balloon segment. The reason for this was that Wings had apparently called his wife Kelly a dumbass or something like that.
The point of this exercise is not to go into public and say, hey, let's have a water balloon fight, let's be friends. The point of this exercise is to go out and provoke people to get their reactions. That's the point of the exercise.
The whole thing devolved into a weird debate over what should be written on the sign Wings would hold during the public stand. He suggested something simple and honest, like I called my wife dumb who hit me with a water balloon, but of course Keem and Boogie were not satisfied. They wanted something more sensational, like I cheated on my wife, or something else that was completely fabricated just to make people more outraged and more eager to humiliate him.
I cheated on my wife. If you cheated and you admitted that in public, now we have something. But you didn't. What you did do is you killed a kid when you were a kid, so that's interesting.
This idiotic argument actually played out live on one of the episodes, and honestly, just trying to describe the scene makes me feel like my IQ is actively dropping by the second. It is because of that I am stopping here before I lose any more neurons. The stream where Wings of Redemption finally performed his public humiliation turned out to be an absolute embarrassment on every level, both for him and for the two masterminds behind the operation, who clearly thought this would be comedic gold. The basic idea was the same as what we saw with Boogie. Wings would stand in a public space holding a sign and get petalled with water balloons as punishment for calling his wife a dumbass. But from the moment the stream started, everything that could go wrong did. For starters, they chose a location that was completely deserted. The few people who did show up to throw water balloons at Wings were either too timid or too weak, because when they actually tried, the balloons bounced off right off his body without breaking, making the whole ordeal awkward.
They're bouncing off him!
And then, not even halfway through the punishment, Wings just gave up and left.
Why did you quit?
I called you a dozen times. How could you think that?
We just
called you.
We put you in members for 2 seconds so we could read donos.
Naturally, Keemstar and Boogie were livid, not because it was going poorly, but because their content farm had just walked away in the middle of milking. Like, what even is this show anymore? But don't worry, because soon after, some actual drama involving this failed Call of Duty streamer began to bubble up. You see, the marriage between Wings and his wife Kelly could only be described as soul-crushing. By September of 2024, their relationship had devolved to a point where viewers were openly speculating about a potential divorce. One of the more notable people covering this implosion in detail was Breaking Banquet, arguably the biggest Wings of Redemption detractor channel on YouTube right now. He did an excellent job compiling footage and dissecting the dysfunction of their relationship. The reason I mention this is because I'll be referencing some of these clips, specifically the ones that show just how toxic and unbalanced this marriage really is. To understand the full scope of this disaster, you first need to get a sense of the dynamic between Wings of Redemption and Kelly. Kelly, by all appearances, is a genuinely decent and hardworking person. She puts in effort to improve herself physically and mentally, and has goals that go beyond sitting in front of a computer screen all day. Kelly even participated in 5K walks and made a serious effort to lose weight, successfully I might add. In a nutshell, she is someone who wants to live life, travel, learn, and grow. Then we have Wings of Redemption, the complete fucking opposite. A man-child who barely leaves his house, refuses to exercise, constantly complains, and would rather rot in front of a monitor than lift a finger to better himself. Their relationship is riddled with jaw-dropping examples of his apathy. One time he didn't get her anything for her birthday, and when questioned about it, he straight up said that birthdays don't matter.
You want the cold answer?
Of course you'll give it to me.
Here's the cold answer. Your birthday doesn't matter that much. It's not that most important. I didn't celebrate my birthday for 30 years.
Nothing matters to you.
Another time, when Kelly wanted to take some educational courses, Wings dismissed it as a waste of time. If you think Boogie is the king of excuses, then Wings of Redemption is the goddamn emperor of them. Anytime Kelly encourages him to do even the bare minimum like going for a walk, he's got some well-prepared excuse locked and loaded.
We can go on walks together.
Yes, your 400-pound husband with a bad hip and a bad leg can go on
If we went on walks, you wouldn't be 400 pounds.
It's depressing to watch and honestly painful to imagine what this woman deals with every single day. In September, Wings came up with the brilliant idea to stream himself and Kelly attempting to beat a video game of his choosing. Keep in mind, his wife doesn't play video games, she has zero understanding of game mechanics or controllers for that matter. So naturally, the game Wings decided she should play was fucking Dark Souls.
Camera angle's messed up.
And there goes your souls. So why when I ask you to heal, do you not heal? You start changing camera angles.
Because I couldn't remember where to heal, and I was trying to move my camera angle. Oh, Jesus.
You don't see it yet, but like, we went across the main reason I want you to play Dark Souls, and it just right over that head. But you did it multiple. Stop moving forward.
I understand I did it multiple times.
What followed was a painful, borderline abusive display of how not to treat your spouse. Wings spent the stream talking down to her, getting visibly irritated whenever she made mistakes, and acting like an angry coach, screaming at a player who's never even seen a football before.
So worth it. So worth it. To be tortured every Friday playing a video game.
It was a perfect reflection of their entire relationship. Back on Lolcow Live, the panel actually confronted Wings about how he was treating his wife during the Dark Souls playthrough. They even used one of Breaking Banquet's videos for their reaction segment.
Got my lost souls back. Woohoo!
You don't got to talk loud. The microphone can pick you up.
I was being.
It's the little comments, Wings. It's the little comments.
The situation was practically made for content, so of course the crew milked it for all it's worth, pushing the narrative as far as possible. Just listen to this absolutely amazing take.
Like Dark Souls also teaches you timing and disrupting timing. So like using the techniques that you learn in Dark Souls, you can apply them to almost everything in life. Like you're looking at me like I'm crazy, but if you put in Dark Souls Saved My Life, there's hundreds of videos of.
But the real twist came afterward. One of his ex-girlfriends, who tragically is actually having cancer, came forward and expressed her desire to confront Wings on the show. The hosts didn't hesitate to set it up, knowing full well it would generate views. As you might expect, Kelly was not thrilled about this decision for obvious reasons. In this clip, she tries to talk to Wings about the issue, and in typical fashion, he brushes her off and just keeps playing Skyrim.
What do you think about us having Homegirl on tonight?
Oh, I'm not happy about it.
Why is that?
For the first thing, it was disrespectful that no one has asked me.
You know it ain't gonna be pretty, right?
I don't care. I'm still not happy about it.
It's like watching someone emotionally flatline in real time. When the actual stream happened, it turned into a bizarre back and forth between Wings and his ex. But instead of the dramatic fight between the two, it mostly turned into a slow drip of depressing revelations, more proof of just how dysfunctional Wings of Redemption is, not just in relationships but in life overall.
I do all this so people leave me the fuck alone. My ideal day is to stay in my bed and sleep.
And just wait to die. That's the plan?
Correct.
At one point during the stream, even Keemstar questioned Wings about why he hasn't done anything to improve his content. I'm talking about his own channel, the one he's been dragging through the mud for over a decade. Even Boogie, yes, the guy who faked cancer, tries to mix things up on his platform. Despite the constant hate in the comments, he still manages to pull 20 to 40,000 views per upload. Wings, on the other hand, is stuck in 2009 since he hasn't innovated anything during his online career. His channel is on life support, and the fact he's still able to stream and make any money off of it is nothing short of a miracle. But, as always, it circles back to his weight, something he's been promising to address for years. But every time he makes a commitment to change, it fizzles out. Whether it's a lack of discipline or pure laziness, the outcome is always the same.
Let me say one fucking thing, okay? You have the best excuse in the world to get out and do shit, and that's the love of a woman. Not everybody gets that. Lord. A lot of people fucking die alone. You had—
Oh, Boogie, shut the fuck up. From the beginning, Keemstar had this idea of incorporating some kind of physical activity into the show for these two elite athletes. This grand vision was finally brought to life in a camping trip that was streamed live on the channel. And I know I've already used the word embarrassing way too many times in this video, but honestly there's just no better way to describe it.
Buggy, open the door, you fat bitch.
Call me the N-word a bunch of times like he did real quick.
I'm good on that part.
This experiment was just two morbidly obese men struggling with even the most basic physical tasks, while their boss desperately tries to squeeze content out of the situation. To make matters worse, large chunks of the stream were completely pointless, like a solid 4 hours of footage showing Boogie sleeping in a tent.
You want T-bone?
Not the bone. I'd like the steak.
Riveting stuff, right? Apparently, things got so bad that Wings even ended up in a hospital at some point during the trip. Whether it was due to exhaustion, heat, or just the general strain of being outside for more than 10 minutes, it's hard to say. As far as content gold goes, this wasn't exactly the viral sensation Keem probably had in mind. If anything, it felt more like a cry for help than a planned piece of entertainment. The content after that wasn't exactly a renaissance either. In fact, the show plunged into yet another long, dragging phase of stagnation. About 2 months of pointless, meandering streams that barely kept anyone's attention. Most of it revolved around Review Tech USA, a YouTuber we already discussed earlier, who at this point was going through a complete meltdown. His personal and professional life was collapsing to the degree that he ended up deleting his main channel. Yes, the one with over 1 million subscribers.
So yeah, isn't that crazy though? Back to what I was saying, that we're at a point.
God, talk! God! Talk!
I just don't like any of
fucking talk!
During this slump, Keemstar also started missing more and more episodes, once again teasing the idea that he might be stepping away from the show entirely. Naturally, none of that came to pass. He came crawling back like he always does. So let's do one big time skip for this entire period, because nothing substantial happened, at least not until December. That's when things finally got spicy again, with Keemstar announcing his next big idea by the name of Lolcow Queens. In simple terms, it was intended to be a spin-off of Lolcow Live, but this time entirely focused on female Lolcows. It was Keemstar's attempt to build a Lolcow cinematic universe, complete with its own cast and shared storylines. To kick things off, they even hosted a live tryout stream, where a bunch of women showed up, each hoping to be chosen as one of the show's hosts.
I'm an Alabama 10, so
Alabama. Trust me, I've been to Alabama U3 still.
What does that mean? You got all 10 teeth? Like, what's that?
The resulting lineup was surreal to say the least, and if you want to know why, you need to meet the entire cast.
Thank you. But I did something you can't do. I can have a kid you can't, so I'm more woman than you, bitch. No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't have no babies. You're barren. Your fucking eggs are old. Your eggs are old like your face.
The first Devil's Reject is Tina D. If you don't know her, she is best described as a loud, chaotic old lady who spends most of her time shouting incoherently in front of a webcam.
Motorboat fucking tits, because that's all she's got to look at. She looks like she's been beat in the face with a bag of dicks.
Back in the early days of YouTube, she was a recurring character on the Angry Grandpa Show, a once popular channel that specialized in old school rage content. By the end of 2024, she became a frequent guest on Lolcow Live. Her main role there was to yell at Boogie and Wings, which unsurprisingly made her a fan favorite in this community. Second, we have Becky Boop, who was introduced in this saga when she made a cameo during one of the Review Tech USA focused episodes of Lolcow Live. She was allegedly his ex-girlfriend and later went on to make some pretty wild accusations against him. And that's about all I'm going to say on this issue, because these claims spiral into territory that even this documentary doesn't want to touch. The third, and arguably most unhinged addition to the panel was Grace Thorpe, who was easily the most deranged figure in this entire story, which is saying something. She also appeared on one of the earlier episodes of Lolcow Live, where she explained in shockingly casual fashion that she was popular online because she had
But like, what would you say you're known for on the internet? Like, how do people know you?
To put it bluntly.
Did you say in?
Me and my dad are kind of edgy.
I'll say.
And our family was kind of falling apart at the time.
Is it because
And-
your dad was cheating on your mom with you?
No, but in a way, like me and him became closer, and my mom got jealous of that. So
I feel legally obligated to slap a massive allegedly across that entire sentence. Also, her father, Ben Thorpe, is easily one of the most revolting individuals I've ever had the misfortune of encountering on the internet. The way he speaks about his daughter isn't just inappropriate, it's downright disturbing on a level that's hard to put into words. This topic is beyond disturbing, so we are stopping here. There was supposed to be a fourth host named Lynx, but she was dropped before the podcast even started. Her entire story within this community is another rabbit hole I don't want to cover now. However, you should remember her name because it will come up again later. As you can see, the show was already teetering on collapse before it even began. Internal drama was erupting left and right. For example, Becky Boop didn't want to share a panel with someone like Grace because of the disturbing allegations surrounding her and her dad, and that was just one of a dozen problems. The drama ballooned to a point where even Keemstar had what could only be described as a mental breakdown trying to keep it all together. Yet somehow, despite everything, Lolcow Queens actually launched. The first episode aired on December 16th, and to no one's surprise, it was atrocious.
Can you please explain that to me?
what the fuck? Sure, if you want me to explain it, I think that women's most important relationship was with their father. And to learn how to please a man, they should like please their father and learn how to communicate with men through him.
What's more, a few episodes later, Grace was actually fired from the podcast. That was because one of the conditions for her to stay employed was that her father, Ben Thorpe, was not allowed to appear on camera under any circumstances. However, during one stream, ironically, while they were discussing him, he appeared in the background.
For any entity to grow online, there's a wall, right?
You can have whatever opinion you want. I'm just saying the only person who has ever
Okay.
brought up my dad is other people on this show.
Okay,
not me.
Grace, he just walked in the background. You gotta go. Like, what is this? It was so simple.
That one moment, among many others, was enough for Kim to pull the plug and remove her from the show. As you can see, these women are every bit as broken, volatile, and meme-worthy as Boogie or Wings. This second channel was a disaster from day one, but against all odds, it did get off the ground. On another topic, in one of the strangest and most unexpected twists of fate seen in this story, Flaming Star, Boogie's so-called shaman who had previously put him through emotional and mental chaos, actually died from cancer around this time. Even Boogie publicly acknowledged his death on Twitter, despite their bizarre and turbulent history. And with that surreal chapter closed, we finally arrive at the end of 2024. It's safe to say that this year was nothing short of non-stop anarchy for the cast of Lolcow Live, a mess of controversy and many meltdowns. But, as is always the case with this show, the drama was far from over. A new year simply meant new disasters that were waiting just around the corner. Despite nearly losing his mind while trying to launch Lolcow Queens, Keemstar still felt the need to expand his so-called Lolcow universe even further. This ambition eventually led to the creation of Lolcow Rewind, a recap-style show hosted by Billy the Fridge, a guy who, at one point, was rumored to be in the running for the third host slot on Lolcow Live after Tommy C was removed. The premise of Lolcow Rewind was simple: recap the chaos and drama happening across the other two shows, Lolcow Live and Lolcow Queens. Surprisingly, the series saw some moderate success, likely due to Billy's personality and the built-in audience from other shows. However, Keemstar wasn't done. He attempted yet another spin-off called Lolcow Court. Now, what this thing was supposed to be is not really clear to me. There's no separate channel for it, and the only known episode was uploaded behind the members-only paywall on the Lolcow Live YouTube channel.
How many weeks did you have to prepare for this fucking thing?
Is this contempt of court?
Didn't Jordy sit down last night and walk you through this?
Hey,
you know, the whole
autistic
problem
fucktard.
was you just didn't have the bit rate set right. That's what they're all telling me in the Discord right now. Why did you not Google what's the right bit rate? Dude, if you're doing worse than that, I'm a 50-year-old man.
You're so
Kim.
behind. Get the fuck
No,
out
you
of
need
here.
to shut this the fuck down. Shut this the fuck down. Shut it. You're bringing down the entire fucking brand right now. You are bringing down.
From what little information is available, the episode was reportedly so awful and full of technical issues that this project died immediately on arrival. Apparently, one massive embarrassment wasn't enough for Keemstar, because on January 19th, yet another chaotic project was unleashed onto the world, a show originally titled Mafia Milkers, which was later rebranded as Lolcow Milkers. If that name alone doesn't make you cringe, just wait until you hear the show's official description. Lolcow Milkers is middle-aged woman with attitude. Make of that what you will. This catastrophe turned out to be every bit as bad as you'd expect, if not worse. The debut episode featured 3 unhinged women yelling over each other on a webcam, though, to be fair, the screaming may have had more to do with the absurd number of technical issues that plagued the stream from the very beginning. Things got so bad that Keemstar himself had to jump onto the broadcast just to figure out what the issue is.
First of all, nobody can hear anyone but Glammy.
The sound should be fine. I have everything on my end is mint.
So I'm lying?
No, that's not what I meant. I meant that all my buttons are...
I'm getting told no sound.
There is no sound. They can only hear Glammy.
The host of this carnival, a woman named Glammy, seemed to have no grasp of even the most basic technology, since the entire production was a complete mess. It genuinely felt like no one involved had rehearsed or tested anything in advance. This leads us to the obvious question: who are these women, and more importantly, who thought this was a good idea? Lolcow Milkers was clearly thrown together with zero planning and even less self-awareness. Keemstar's compulsive need to spin every possible disaster into content is slowly getting out of control. The craziest part in all of this is they still kept pumping out more of these ridiculous spin-off shows. At this point, it's hard not to ask, what the hell is happening? As of recording of this video, not counting Lolcow Live itself, there are a staggering 9 different podcasts tied to the so-called Lolcow Live universe, and the majority of these programs are either completely forgotten or run by people who are, quite frankly, total nobodies. Many of them have no notable online presence, no history of content creation, and in some cases no discernible talent to be in front of a camera at all. There is literally no reason for these side projects to even exist. Back over at Lolcow Live, it was business as usual, and by that I mean the same shameless clickbait tactics, forced drama, and endless chaos that had come to define the show. If anything, things somehow managed to get even worse. For quite some time now, the podcast has been using a text-to-speech feature for donations in the hopes that viewers would give more money. However, in practice, it's been a complete mess. The constant interruptions from robotic voices completely ruined the pacing of certain episodes, cutting off hosts mid-sentence and derailing conversations.
And I had a simple goal, like 500 likes before we start the show.
Buckshot 861 super chatted $19.99. As someone in the military hearing Boogie tried to...
In terms of content quality, it was truly scraping the bottom of the barrel, with cast members constantly threatening to quit, storming off midstream, or getting irrationally angry for no reason. One of the more popular attention-grabbing tactics involved Boogie putting on an exaggerated fake spasms during live streams, which usually stemmed from nothing.
Take all the fucking money you want.
Warning,
I'm trying to
the
be
key
calm.
light may have become hot during prolonged
Take 'em all. I
uses.
don't give a fuck how
Always
calm
handle
you
with
are.
care.
Take them all. Take every goddamn dime I've got. Go fuck yourself.
I'm trying to be calm. Wings.
When that failed to bring in views, he created this story where he and his girlfriend had broken up. This resulted in probably one of the fakest streams in Lolcow Live's history.
Can you explain to the audience why she broke up with you? Like, what happened exactly?
On the night that I crashed out with John, there was a bunch of other things going on in the background, the biggest of which was
Just to be clear for anyone who didn't pay attention, they didn't break up, like, at all. Meanwhile, the marriage between Wings of Redemption and Kelly continued to crumble in every aspect, both during Lolcow Live broadcasts and on his personal streams. Adding even more fuel to the fire was Becky Boop, the main host of Lolcow Queens, who, if you ask me, had already overstayed her welcome on both shows within just a few weeks. Her constant flirtation with both Boogie and Wings was just in poor taste. However, the real tipping point came when she crossed the line with Wings, which made Kelly so mad she tore up their marriage certificate live on stream.
In case there's any question.
Oh my
Whoa!
God.
Holy shit! Holy shit!
This moment perfectly encapsulates what Lolcow Live really is, a soap opera powered by desperation and fake controversy. But the worst was still to come, because this time the drama wasn't something Keemstar could just sit back and watch unfold from a safe distance. No, this one would come back to bite him directly. By now, it should be obvious that the Lolcow brand spans a wide and chaotic cast of characters, hosts, guests, and regulars across its growing number of spin-off shows. One of those people is Michael, better known online as Kid Behind the Camera. Now, saying that Mike has skeletons in his closet is like saying the sky is blue. It's an understatement of cosmic proportions. He is easily one of the most pathetic and hated people in the entire Lolcow universe, and that's saying a lot. At some point, Mike became a host on Lolcow Queens, a show that, at this stage, could best be described as being in a constant state of eternal civil war.
Where's your Harvard degree, bitch? $1 million a year, that's why. That's fucking why.
What, because it costs money? You're fucking rich? Go do some shit. Use your brain for a change instead of your fucking mouth. I'm getting tired of you cunts.
It was during one of the many fights on that podcast that host, Becky Boop, brought up a very old accusation about Mike, one that would end up throwing the entire Lolcow network into turmoil.
So first of all, I met Bridget in 2008. Before YouTube, before there was any money, we used to sleep on a twin-size mattress with springs cutting us while we slept.
Apparently, guess what? Apparently she was also 15 and too young to know any better.
You did hear that correctly. Becky brought up the fact that Mike began dating his now wife Bridget when she was just 15 years old and he was 21. And while this wasn't exactly new information, it's been floating around online for about 7 years. The controversy had largely faded from public memory until this blowout on Lolcow Queens brought it roaring back into the spotlight. Here is the most disturbing part. This isn't some unverified rumor. Both Mike and Bridget have publicly acknowledged that this is what happened. And yet, the excuses being thrown around are absolutely staggering. Let me give you Mike's version of the story, meaning I am using his own words, the absolute best case scenario from his perspective. According to him, when he first met Bridget, she lied about her age, and so he had no idea she was only 15. This lie supposedly continued for 2 full years until she turned 17. Then, according to Mike, he finally realized the truth when he saw the number of candles on her birthday cake. At that point, he still wanted to continue the relationship because they were already together for a considerable amount of time. Keep in mind, this is the most generous version of events, and even that version is jaw-droppingly awful. Calling it disgusting would be putting it mildly, and I think the audience agrees with me because they created a massive shitstorm because of this. The drama spilled over from Lolcow Queens into the main Lolcow live stream. Eventually, the main hosts were forced to address the controversy simply because the chat and comments wouldn't let it go, and the response from Boogie and Keemstar was pure delusion.
Keem, I forgave you for making Wing's wife bring you a White Claw now or working with a guy named Michael Green that should literally be on a Chris Hansen show.
God.
What is wrong with you?
That was the other thing. Okay, listen.
Yeah, we have to talk about
Okay,
that.
let's get this done and out of the way. Okay.
Yes.
Should Michael have been canceled for that? 100%. Should he have got in trouble? 100%. However, he ended up marrying her. They have kids together. And the expiration date on canceling him has long fucking gone. All right.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to like just be like, fuck you, Michael, I hate you?
There's something that did happen. Mike went back and retroactively removed every video of him and Bridget together on Angry Grandpa. And he most likely did because South Carolina doesn't have statute of limitations.
Oh, he most likely did that because people were canceling him for it, and he didn't want to be canceled for marrying the woman he loved.
Let's be honest here, that's not even surprising, because these two are close friends with Mike, and neither of them has ever shown the integrity to take a moral stance when it might inconvenience them. The excuses being thrown out were laughable. Bridget lied about her age, she doesn't feel like a victim, it was a long time ago. In short, they tried to paint this situation as a case of a young girl making a mistake and Mike being caught in the middle, completely ignoring the glaring truth that Mike was a grown adult who dated a minor for 2 years and somehow convinced himself that he was the victim. Believe it or not, Wings of Redemption, of all people, was actually the only one on the panel who pushed back even slightly.
So my question is this. From age 15 to 17, did you wonder where she was at between 7 and 3 p.m. every day?
A lot of people...
He raised the most basic obvious questions. For example, how do you date someone for 2 years and not realize they're in high school? How do you not notice their age, their behavior, their surroundings? The entire story sounds suspicious from the start, and Wings, despite his own flaws, was the only one who seemed to understand how insane it was that people were defending this. It got so bad that they brought Mike himself onto the show to clear the air, but even then it was a disaster. The majority of the panel was clearly on his side, letting him spin his sanitized version of events unchallenged. And even with everything working in his favor, his own version, friendly hosts, and a controlled environment, it still sounded absolutely revolting.
Listen, it comes down to this. I was lied to like 17 years ago, and we're still together with kids.
Mike, you keep going back to this, but how did you spend 2 years of your life not realizing she's going to school, that she can't drive, that she has to have her parents to take her?
I've already said I knew she was going to school when we started dating. Even if we didn't, even if we got back together, I'm not going to separate because the internet is outraged.
No, I'm just saying,
my wife.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is there's no way to really still be mad about it.
I feel like I'm the victim in this. I was the one that lied to.
Somehow, these people get offended when someone calls them a PDF file, and yet they platform a guy who openly admits to dating a 15-year-old, excuse it with the weakest possible justifications, and then wonder why the internet is furious with them.
Keem and Boogie defending a P-file is so cringe. This isn't the Keem and Boogie I grew up with.
I did not
I'm not defending any people. What are you talking about?
361 super chatted $20.
Now I'm
Honestly,
getting pissed.
After 2 grueling hours filled with excuses and denial, the panel discussion finally came to an end. Despite the messy accusations, the stream ended with the hosts agreeing that they weren't going to do anything about it. In a surprising turn, Keemstar decided to reach out to Nicolas Diorio during one of his live streams to get his take on the situation. Nick gave what was arguably the most honest and reasonable response anyone had heard throughout this entire ordeal.
Are you familiar with Lolcow Queens?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and you know how Kid Behind the Camera is like,
co-owns that and produces it or whatever.
Yeah, isn't there
He's,
some
like, a
shit
part of
about
it.
like how he met his wife when they were like when she was like in a really weird age gap or something?
This is exactly what I'm calling about. All right.
I'm gonna need to look into it before I make any firm stances. But yeah, hit me with it.
This story came out 7 years ago or whatever, but people knew about it before them because they openly told their audience, right?
Mhm.
And at the time, nobody gave a shit because they were already together for like a decade. Like literally nobody cared when me and Scarce covered this 7 years ago. It was like one of those things where it's like, well, nothing can be done. Now it's 17 years later, and now they have kids together, they're married, and I'm just like, yeah, it's just like one of those things where, yeah, this is f***ed up. Mike is so f***ing wrong for that. I don't condone this at all. But also, nothing can be done. Like, what is he supposed to get canceled? Is he supposed to lose his children or something? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I think the main thing that you're leaving out is supposedly the girl like lied about her age. He didn't find out, and there's no proof that he knew how old the person was. But like, even then, I mean, I wouldn't want to associate with this guy personally. I think this is just gross and weird.
He acknowledged that the situation was messy and complicated, that there may be some elements in a moral grey area, but even with that context, no matter how you try to spin this story, it doesn't look good. Associating with someone who admits to having dated a 15-year-old while being a grown adult, even if the circumstances are debatable, sends a terrible message. After the overwhelming backlash within the community and having someone like Nicolas Diorio spell it out in such plain terms, Keemstar finally gave in. He announced that Mike had been removed from Lolcow Queens, effectively ending his involvement with the podcast.
So I made the call today to kick Mike completely off of Queens. Yes, I know he owns it. Me and him own it. All right. But I do have the power to kick him off the camera.
For a split second, you might have thought that the Lolcow crew was finally taking some accountability and doing the right thing for once. But if you actually believe that, then you clearly haven't been paying attention. Literally 2 days later, on the very next stream, there was a supposed boycott between various members of the extended Lolcow franchise, including the main hosts, who started pushing to bring Mike back on the show. The amount of cope in this episode was so bad it could put you in a coma from second-hand embarrassment.
Jordy, you're on board with the boycott?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Really? Okay,
I like
continue.
Mike. Your excuse for kicking Mike was the host shouldn't have to deal with him. Well, we're asking to deal with him. We are here today to tell you we want to work with Mike. We are okay with working with Mike. Becky and Tina will not work without Mike. And I'm pretty up in the fucking air about it too at this point. I'll probably walk off this motherfucking show if I don't get at least a reasonable goddamn answer.
Yeah, I can see how Mike can be looked at as like a scumbag, but at this point, I'm almost on pass with you. Like, the time for that to be canceled is over, and even if you wanted to cancel him, he's already went through the cancel arc.
There is nothing I want more than for these people to step outside, touch some grass and disconnect from the internet for just 1 minute. It is here that you can notice the obvious brain rot when they use these internet terms. Wings of Redemption actually believes that because Mike got cancelled, everything is magically okay now. That is not even all. We were then hit with an avalanche of even more excuses to defend a situation that is, by all accounts, indefensible. Boogie, as always, joined in with his Harvard intellect that no one with a functioning brain takes seriously anymore.
So where's the female victim in this? Bridget, she says she's not the victim. She says she's the victimizer. Doesn't that make Mike the fucking victim? We're kicking the victim from their own fucking show.
And Becky, who, mind you, was the one who kicked off this entire drama, also jumped on the Defend Mike bandwagon.
I don't like the fact that he's gone. I can't speak to what happened with the situation with him and Bridget. There's a million battles in the world to fight. That one is not mine. What I can say is what it was like working with him day after day. And he was amazing to work with. He made that fucking show what it is.
This woman is on a course to become the most hated person in the entire community, and she's doing it at a record speed. One silver lining in this train wreck of a stream was the glorious text-to-speech donations. These donations absolutely roasted the cast alive. Keemstar clearly wanted to push the narrative that Mike was being wronged, and he couldn't stand the fact that the audience wasn't buying into it.
Mike is in the wrong. It don't matter what she says, he was the adult boogie. You don't get it.
Nope.
Sorry, I love Mike. But dude, if he had sex with her when she was 15 or 16, then it's wrong. If any other person,
There's
male or
nobody
female,
saying
had
it's
sex
right.
with
Oh
a
my God,
15
this
or
is such
16-year-old,
gaslighting. This is such
they
gaslighting.
would be in jail.
This is such
Yeah,
gaslighting.
we all agreed that that was
my
wrong.
God, that would happen? He would be in jail? Thank you for the education.
Then Becky dropped the most delusional take of all, claiming this was an innocent until proven guilty situation.
He would be in jail if he had been proven guilty in a court of law. He's never even been charged. And in this country, in the US, you are innocent until you are proven guilty. You all are punishing an innocent man.
Which, again, makes zero fucking sense considering Mike admitted he was dating Bridget when she was 15 years old. That's not a rumor, that's not speculation, that's his own damn story. And right on cue, a text-to-speech dono came through and absolutely obliterated Becky.
Innocent till proven guilty, Becky? Does that apply to Richie? Don't remember him being proven guilty yet got slandered and dragged through the mud.
The sheer truth and irony of that donation hit like a brick wall. Becky, who spent months bashing Rich online and even made criminal allegations against him on Discord, was suddenly speechless. If Rich hasn't been convinced of anything, does that make him totally innocent too? Becky, being a pathetic, spineless coward, didn't answer because there is nothing to say here. Her hypocrisy was plain as day. Thankfully, she had the 500-pound slug sitting next to her who said that she should just ignore it.
Innocent till proven guilty, Becky? Does that apply to Richie? Don't remember him being proven guilty yet got slandered and dragged through the mud.
Don't engage in that shit.
That's super chatted $20.
Guys, I know we all hate this show, but honestly, I don't think we hate it enough. The conclusion to this embarrassment is that Mike was back on the show, and while that might be the final decision, the ghost of Kid Behind the Camera's controversy still haunts the entire Lolcow franchise to this day. His continued presence remains one of the biggest stains on the podcast, and it's a stain that won't wash out anytime soon. The rest of the February continued with the usual programming, which is non-stop yelling, fake drama, e-begging and people constantly threatening to quit the show. Business as usual for Lolcow Live. But the undisputed peak of the circus came during an episode where Keemstar said he had done a background check on Boogie and discovered a felony charge for involuntary manslaughter. Now, everyone on the panel knew this was complete bullshit, including Boogie himself. But that didn't stop them from pretending otherwise, because performance is everything in this space. If you can't sell a fake narrative, what are you even doing here? Unfortunately for them, the performance wasn't just weak, it was downright humiliating.
And Carlo was already gone, and Brian was already gone, and I was there alone, man. I was there alone.
Boogie's reaction was like something out of a middle school theater class. He screamed incoherently, trying to make it look like he was caught off guard, and then launched into one of the most painfully fake crying monologues ever captured on stream. He claimed that he accidentally killed a girl when he was 14 after stealing his mother's car.
My mom's car. After she got home, I took the keys and I got in the car, but I didn't know how to drive. I didn't know how to drive.
There is bad content, there is cringe content, and then there's Boogie trying to fake cry his way through a made-up childhood manslaughter story. This was the latter, and it was rock bottom even by Lolcow Live standards. It wasn't until March that we finally got something of substance. This was the moment when the long-awaited Fat Camp finally became a reality. The event had been teased for months and was one of several attempts by Keemstar to gather various hosts from across the Lolcow universe into a single location. The entire point of the camp was to get these notoriously unhealthy personalities together under one roof, put them through exercise routines, help them lose weight, and of course stream the whole thing for maximum content. Planning the event, however, was a complete nightmare. From problems with scheduling to petty infighting, it seemed cursed from the start. One of the biggest blow-ups occurred when Becky refused to participate in person, which eventually led to her being fired from the show entirely.
Obviously, what you did last night, you know, we do have to part ways. I understand you're drunk. I'm sorry, but...
Despite all these behind-the-scenes issues, Keemstar somehow managed to cobble up the event together. The original promises surrounding Fat Camp were that there would be 8-hour daily streams, structured exercise sessions with proper equipment, and a strict no junk food policy. Unsurprisingly, none of these things actually happened. What viewers got instead was a disorganized, poorly executed mess. Most of the stream was just hosts lounging around talking aimlessly. The exercise component was virtually non-existent. At best, there were a few attempts at activity, usually done half-heartedly for the camera. The audio quality was absolutely atrocious, with mics constantly cutting out, echoing or picking up background noise, making the already boring content almost unwatchable.
YouTube. You are watching Lolcow Live! So this stream...
The entire event came off as rushed, unprofessional and painfully awkward. But what happened next on that ill-fated Fat Camp would forever alter the future of Lolcow Live. Midway through one of the camp streams, Becky suddenly showed up at the house, pleading, literally begging to be rehired on Lolcow Queens. Her own saga at this camp was nothing short of pathetic. Tears, chaos, and even Keemstar forcing her to shave her head on camera as a bizarre punishment. Yet none of that was even the most consequential part. The real bombshell involved Wings of Redemption. When Becky turned up unannounced, Wings would slip that they'd actually known she was coming all along and that Keem had even contributed financially to her trip.
Wait, so y'all paid Becky to come, meaning it was planned? I'm confused.
It's not so much that we paid Becky to come. Becky called begging to come, but she didn't have the funds to do it. So Keem and Mike got together and they paid half of her bill to get here.
Who told you that?
I was in the room.
In what room?
With the Becky conversation.
This revelation blew the lid off the carefully scripted narrative that everyone was supposedly shocked by her showing up. In the immediate aftermath, Keem and the rest of the hosts launched into frantic denials. But the audience was already past the obvious manipulation, so Keemstar eventually gave up and admitted that they did know she was coming and it had been a planned surprise.
You didn't have to out it. Why did you out it? What was the purpose of you outing it? What was the purpose of that?
What was the purpose of changing the thing? Becky would have still screamed in the fucking theater depending on what.
Okay, so what, we're supposed to start the stream and be like, hey guys, just so you know, Becky's here, da 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 da. Or
no, you start the stream like this.
Comes in, right, and oh my god, she's here, which was a better entrance.
It is unbelievable that this guy gets mad when people call the show fake, when he constantly tries to pull shit like this. What followed was a heated argument between Keem and Wings that rapidly escalated into physical violence. In a moment that will forever be remembered with this stream, in the middle of the fight, Wings threw his wife Kelly to the floor, which left everyone in a state of disbelief. The most bizarre thing about this fight was everyone screaming at Wings for what he has done, while the constant text-to-speech donations blasted in the background.
Pass your By the way, this is a W storyline. Whoever cooked this script...
It genuinely felt like an episode of Black Mirror. Needless to say, Wings faced an incredible amount of backlash for this stunt, not just from the Lolcow crew, but from the viewers. It was clear to everyone that he had completely lost control and ended up physically lashing out at one person who still stood by him. But the situation didn't stop here. In the aftermath of the incident, a new clip surfaced, this time from their trip to Fat Camp, showing Wings grabbing Kelly by her hand in what could only be described as a violent fit of rage. People always knew that Wings and Kelly were not on the best terms. Their on-stream arguments were frequent and sometimes cruel, but this footage opened up an entirely new and disturbing conversation about potential abuse. Keemstar took this moment and at first he suspended Wings from the show, but he eventually fired him outright from Lolcow Live. In the days following Fat Camp, Keem and Boogie tried to do damage control with a stream, attempting to explain the incident and smooth things over, but there was nothing to be done. Wings may be controversial and flawed, but he was also a core part of the show's identity. Without him, Lolcow Live simply didn't feel the same. His absence left a noticeable void in the dynamic, and it quickly became obvious that finding a replacement with the same level of impact wouldn't be easy. Back on Wings' channel, he and Kelly tried to give their side of the story, attempting to downplay the situation. Unfortunately, no matter how you try to spin it, it doesn't sound good. Keemstar and Boogie would eventually bring Wings back on Lolcow Live as a guest to discuss the incident and make what was presented as his last appearance on the show. There was some speculation that he might return for good, but that hope was quickly put to rest. For the remainder of the month, the two remaining hosts continued to do the show alone, occasionally featuring guests to fill the hole left by Wings' departure. It wasn't until the end of April that Keem finally announced a new co-host, a guy named Restov.
There isn't a single person in this universe that deserves this more. Rastov, you are the third host of Lolcow Live.
What? What?
Restov was someone from the Lolcow community who was essentially a nobody with little to no real presence before the Fat Camp. He had started appearing in small segments after the event, but even Keemstar had previously said that he didn't feel like the right fit for the show. Why he ultimately chose him as the new co-host is anyone's guess, and to many viewers it felt like a strange decision. By almost every available metric, Fat Camp was, by far, the worst decision Keemstar ever made for Lolcow Live, as it completely derailed the show from what it was originally meant to be. Yet, amazingly enough, he would somehow manage to involve himself in an even bigger embarrassment that same month. Now is the time Lynx comes back into the story, a name you might remember from earlier. Lynx was originally meant to be a co-host on Lolcow Queens, but that plan quickly fell apart. She was eventually fired after proving herself nearly impossible to work with. However, since we are talking about someone who can't stand not being in the spotlight, she released a video on her YouTube channel that would end up shaking the entire Lolcow Live community.
What happened? Why did it happen? I want to start by saying I am so incredibly ashamed of myself. I don't know how I put myself in this position.
In the video, she exposed details of her behind-the-scenes relationship with Keemstar, which escalated into a situation that can only be described as completely unhinged.
Keem had asked me to put on a blonde wig and get naked for him. He was kind of pushy about it. Yeah, he asked me to put on a blonde wig and get naked for him. He then proceeded to tell me that I looked like a mermaid.
This is the story. Sometime after she was fired from Lolcow Queens, Lynx had started a Patreon where she posted explicit photos. According to her, some of these photos were leaked by a Lolcow Live Discord member named Lord Rush, who she then called out publicly on Twitter. Keem decided to call Lynx directly to talk about the situation, but what happened next would turn into a new scandal altogether.
Like, I really liked you. Like, friend level and, like, teetering past friendship. Like, I was like, she is the girl. I can mold her into being, like, a superstar.
During this phone call, he began lusting over Lynx, making awkward, cringeworthy and downright desperate comments that made everyone watching pause in disbelief.
You know? And I miss you. I truly miss you.
I miss you more than words can even describe. I wish you could understand how much.
At one point, we'll exchange fluids, but there's no rush. Like,
Unbeknownst to him, she was recording the conversation and later played the audio in her expose video, presenting it as proof of Keemstar's humiliating behavior. To no one's surprise, the internet went wild. Keem was brutally mocked online, with memes and clips circulating almost immediately. The same day the video was released, Lolcow Live would fire up a stream, and in an unexpected twist, Boogie2988 started laughing at Keem.
Oh my god, you know you've gone viral with this. This is bad.
With Eric.
I mean, it's not like bad, it's funny bad.
Because Eric scammed me.
Keem tried to defend himself and offered his side of the story, but let's be honest, with the amount of clear evidence presented, there really isn't much he could say. Keep in mind, Keemstar has a fiancée, so how does that factor into all of this? Well, according to links, they were in an open relationship. However, Keemstar strongly denied those claims during a livestream, so I have no idea what to make of this. Regardless of who's telling the truth, the internet had a field day, and Lynx got exactly what she wanted: attention and relevance. While our snitch enjoyed her 15 minutes of fame, she forgot one crucial thing. When you play with fire, especially the kind of fire that's well connected and influential, you're bound to get burned. Less than a month after her expose, her YouTube channel was mysteriously taken down because it violated one of its policies. Whether Keem was the one behind this remains unclear. Still, it's hard to believe that Lynx, essentially a nobody, would leak a private phone call with one of the most well-connected people on YouTube and not expect any kind of backlash is almost absurd. Now she has to live with the consequences of her actions. And honestly, the real question is, what the hell was Keemstar thinking? How did someone with his experience and reputation allow himself to trust Lynx, a person who clearly thrives on attention and chaos? How did he not see this coming? And so the show continues to limp along, barely holding itself together, which brings us to what I personally like to call the third dark age of Lolcow Live. A period that, quite possibly, could mark the beginning of the end. At this point in the video, I honestly don't even have the energy to keep going, but truthfully, there isn't much left to say that would surprise anyone. Lolcow Live remains a chaotic mess, riddled with fake drama, forced controversy, and a desperate need for relevance. Ever since Wings of Redemption left, the numbers have been in a steep decline. In a last-ditch effort to revive the brand, the team has tried everything, from organizing yet another pointless trip or holiday with various members of the Lolcow universe to introducing new guests in hope of sparking interest. Meanwhile, some disturbing allegations have begun to surface, but with how fake and insincere everything in this universe feels, it's nearly impossible to tell what's real anymore. At this point, nothing feels grounded. The lines between fiction, roleplay, and actual human behavior are so blurred that it's exhausting to even follow. People have been predicting the downfall of Lolcow Live since the very first episode, but now, more than ever, all signs are pointing in one clear direction. Still, the show's critics and haters have been wrong before, so whether this is truly the final chapter or just another messy arc remains to be seen. Before we close this out, let's take a moment to recap where some of the key figures in the Lolcow universe have ended up, and bring this wild, ridiculous saga to a fitting conclusion. As I wrap up this segment, please keep in mind that this video has taken a lot of effort to make. A considerable amount of time has likely passed since I first wrote the script, recorded the voiceover, and edited everything together, so some of the information here may be outdated. If I don't mention something significant that happened after the end of June, that's probably why. So first things first, let's begin with the person who was arguably wronged the most in this entire saga, Tommy C. After his brief involvement with Lolcow Live, Tommy has returned to doing his own thing on his YouTube channel where he covers various stories from the online drama scene. By most accounts, he's minding his own business, staying consistent and keeping out of the ridiculous theatrics that plague the Lolcow universe. Wings of Redemption is, unfortunately, right back where he started. After being fired from the show, he put all of his energy into streaming on his own platform, desperately trying to rebuild his audience, but viewership is dwindling, and the trolls, now revitalized and more focused than ever, have made it clear they're not going anywhere. It's as if his entire appearance on Lolcow Live never happened, except now his reputation is even worse than before. Becky Boop is no longer part of Lolcow Queens, which is ironic considering how much she humiliated herself just to stay on the show. Her arc has become a cautionary tale of what happens when you sell your dignity for online clout and then lose both. Mike, shockingly, is still a major presence on the Lolcow channels, and if you thought his controversies were over, think again. He is now at the center of disturbing domestic abuse allegations, including a report where his wife claimed he hit her so hard that she saw lights. A recorded phone call of her contacting the police only adds to the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, Michael's YouTube channel is a complete wasteland, filled with clickbait content that even puts Lolcow Live to shame, and every upload is met with a nearly universal backlash. Resto has now become the show's third official co-host, though his presence has been met with overwhelming indifference or outright rejection. Most long-time viewers don't see him as a worthy replacement for Wings, and his personality hasn't done much to shift that perception. Yet, despite the negative reception, he continues to show up, working with the team and trying to ignore the hate comments. Boogie is, well, still Boogie. His role as the show's human punching bag hasn't changed, but even that behavior is beginning to wear thin, because people are getting tired of the act. During their last community road trip, Boogie actually proposed to his girlfriend, and it was just as cringeworthy and uncomfortable as you're probably imagining. And finally, we arrive at Keemstar, the self-declared ringleader of this chaotic circus. He is still desperately trying to hold this entire collapsing Lolcow cinematic universe together. But with every member burning bridges, facing scandals, or simply becoming irrelevant, he is constantly forced to clean up other people's messes. His need to keep the show alive, no matter how toxic or broken it becomes, reveals a level of delusion that might ultimately be his undoing. To truly understand Lolcow Live, you have to stop thinking of it as a podcast and start viewing it for what it really is, a tragic comedy built on manufactured spectacle. At its core, the show was always marketed as raw, real, and uncensored, but in reality it's a carefully created dumpster fire designed to exploit the instability of its hosts for entertainment value. And it worked, until it didn't. The downfall of Lolcow Live isn't just the result of one bad decision or one scandal, it's the accumulation of everything. It is the fake storylines, the recycled drama, the unchecked egos, the morally bankrupt behavior, and at the center of it all is Keemstar, a man who built this empire of dysfunction, trying to script reality without ever realizing that real people break when they are pushed too far. And the illusion that once held it all together is starting to crack. At the very least, let Lolcow Live be a reminder of how quickly a spectacle can collapse under its own weight. A show built on exploiting others for entertainment will eventually turn inward and begin to consume itself. And when it does, it's not a question of if it ends, it's only a matter of when.